Donald Trump has been disqualified. In Colorado, the Supreme Court has ruled that Trump, under the 14th Amendment, cannot be on the ballot. The first thing that means is the GOP primary ballot. And of course, that will mean the general election ballot. Now, there's a lot going into this. The ruling is stayed until January 4th because of appeals. But that doesn't mean anything because they have 90 days. I believe Colorado may be different, but typically you have 90 days to get your ballots in order for an election. And this means if they do not have a resolution by that day, the 4th, obviously, they may actually print ballots with no Donald Trump. The implications for this are very severe. It will jeopardize the GOP primary, and that may be the key strategy here. Donald Trump has issued a statement about this. Vivek Ramaswamy has vowed to remove himself and is calling on all other candidates to do the same. Of course, the other more spineless candidates likely would not. And we've got a lot of news, a lot of outside of that as well. We've got 12,000 migrants crossing the southern border in one day. Ashley St. Clair posting a video from the airport, from an airport. I believe this was in Phoenix when she was at leaving TPUSA, showing all these migrants getting premium seats, premium on airlines to be flown all across the country. And of course, there's a movie coming out. It's called Civil War. And they've got a map of their breakdown of what happens about what happens to this country. So we're going to talk about all of that. Before we get started, my friends, head over to thebestsongever.com. Click download your price. Download the song for at least 69 cents. It's our new song, Together Again, a cover from the classic hit by Smokey Mike and the God King. You may know them as Michael Knowles and Jeremy Boring. When you do, you will also get a promo code for 35% off all Cast Brew purchases. Only good for the next week and a half or so. This includes subscriptions. So if you download the song, you get the promo code and you subscribe to any amount of coffee, 1 bag, 2 bag, 3 bag. Let's say you do just 1 bag of coffee per month. That 35% will hit every single month forever. Get this. Even if you cancel the subscription and you want to re-sign up later, you still get the 35% off. That's why you should go do it. But also, it was a lot of fun. We're building cultural businesses. We have this amazing photo of Phil Labonte as seen in the music video, of course, with that striking beard. He's getting there. He's working on it. But you know, that's how he's viewed in the AI world. So definitely support our work. Download the song. Check out the music video. Also, become a member at timcast.com. Click join us so you can hang out for the uncensored members only show coming up at 10 p.m. tonight. And get access to our Discord server where you can hang out with like-minded individuals and even call into our Uncensored show to talk to us and our guest. Don't forget to also smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show right now. Everywhere you can is the best way to support our work. Joining us tonight to talk about this and everything else is Joe Kent.
Hey, thanks for having me back on. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Who are you? What do you do?
So I was in the Army for a bit, retired Green Beret, and now I'm running for Congress out in Washington's 3rd Congressional District.
Right on. Well, this is going to be great. I'm glad you're here, especially providing an inside look in politics as you've experienced it, and what you think to be happening in 2024 will be interesting. So awesome to have you. Phil Labonte's hanging out.
Hello, everybody. My name is Phil Labonte, lead singer of All That Remains, very failed musician, anti-communist and counter-revolutionary. What's up, Shane?
What's up? What's good? I have not slept since we left America Fest. I'm exhausted, but it was a lot of fun out there. Got this sweet shirt from my friends at Ultra Free. It says defund Satanism. I think it's timely.
Yeah.
Nice.
That's Drea De Matteo and Robbie Stabler, pretty rad people. So it's awesome to be here, and it's good to see you again, Joe.
Good to see you too. Yeah.
We left Amfest at it would have been around like 10:30 Eastern time. Mm-hmm. We got back in the Maryland area at 5:21 a.m. and that's when I went to bed. For which I woke up at 7:30 to get back to work, and I worked all day.
That builds character.
I guess. So if I look tired in the thumbnail, that's why. I feel fine, but I probably look like I'm dying.
I feel like I am.
It was worth it. That show last night with Tucker was absolutely incredible. It was an honor and a privilege to have him. We got Serge pressing the buttons.
Yo, I am here. That was fun. I really enjoyed that. Good flight back as well. Yeah. So yeah, let's get into it, man.
Yeah, here's the big news, ladies and gentlemen. From SCNR.com, Colorado Supreme Court has disqualified President Trump from GOP primary ballot. Now, of course, it's more than just this. If they're arguing Trump is to be removed from the primary ballot, they're also saying the general as well. SCNR.com reports the Colorado Supreme Court disqualified Trump from appearing on the 2024 GOP presidential primary ballot. Tuesday's decision comes after a lower court judge in Denver ruled against removing his ballot access. Quote, a majority of the court holds that President Trump is disqualified from holding the office of president under Section 3 of the 14th Amendment of the United States, of the United States Constitution. Because he is disqualified, it would be a wrongful act under the election code for the Colorado Secretary of State to list him as a candidate on the presidential primary ballot. Now, many experts have argued this is a gross misinterpretation. The 14th Amendment does not bar someone from running for president. It's only related to federal officers, which are individuals appointed by the president or representatives and senators, not the president himself. The lawsuit has cited a never before used Civil War era provision of the 14th Amendment, which we all know. Crew has argued Trump summoned tens of thousands of enraged supporters for a wild protest in D.C. and that racism and white supremacy, the same virulent ideologies that led to the Civil War, in its wake, the 14th Amendment, pervaded Trump's insurrection and movement surrounding it. There's similar lawsuits being filed all across the country. Several states have already ruled no. We judges, we may see these get appealed to the Supreme Court, and the same thing may happen. You know, I thought it was going to be Colorado. Now, there's an important distinction here. The Colorado Supreme Court ruling is stayed until January 4th, but that's meaningless. All this means is by saying Trump can't appear on the ballot, they're saying when it comes time to print the ballot, don't include Trump's name. By claiming the ruling is stayed is meaningless because they're not printing the ballots right now. The question is, if 3 months out from Super Tuesday, Colorado, they do not resolve this, Trump will not appear. And then guess who's going to win the primary? I'd imagine Ron DeSantis. Oh man. You guys ready? I hope you have a trusty fifth by your side, because for those that are enjoying a nice drinking game, you're going to need it. But we'll start slow. I know you're all getting ready, but not yet. First, the GOP is going to erupt into just bickering and infighting like we've already seen. I mean, one of the big stories out of last night with Tucker was that Tucker Carlson said the people who represent DeSantis online are some of the nastiest, stupidest, and zero-sum people he's ever seen. It is apparent that the Republican Party is not getting along. However, most people support Donald Trump. And I'm not saying Republicans, most people. When they remove him from the primary and the RNC tries to give the nomination to someone else, I mean, there's going to be a revolt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There was a lot of people that took issue with what Tucker said about the DeSantis campaign. And I've seen some of it, like there are some people on the DeSantis campaign that have been fairly nasty and stuff, but there were a lot of people that were really upset that Tucker had the audacity to, point to say that he saw that, or that was his
Were they
impression.
all from the DeSantis campaign?
I think they were.
Yeah, okay.
Well,
that's
it's a lot of fans of DeSantis, but look, when Christina Pashaw, who is basically Ron DeSantis' number 2, is personally leading flame wars against Trump's fans,
yeah.
You've debased yourself. You have lowered yourself to that of a fan. So if like Taylor Swift and Rihanna's fans are like arguing on Twitter, neither Swift nor Rihanna get involved, and nor do they care. Mm-hmm. And that's basically what Ron DeSantis' campaign decided to be. Yep. Just on par with Trump's fan base instead of Trump himself. So be it. But removing Trump from the ballot is the only way these people could win, which it's no surprise they've all made the move to try and win the nomination because they all expect, at least everyone except for Vivek, they expect Trump to be removed.
This would be a great opportunity for them to prove everybody wrong and recognize the moment that we're living in, and for them to say, this is much bigger than my political campaign. This is much bigger than the Republican nomination. Vivek led it off perfectly. Mm-hmm. If they all rally around right now, rally around Donald Trump and say, hey, this is actually about preserving our democratic republic, that's what I think it's going to take for us to actually win. Because if we're divided, I mean, I fought a really hard Republican primary last year and unfortunately came up short because the Democrats don't play that game. If we fall for this time and we are not unified, we're not just going to lose the presidency. I'm afraid we'd lose the entire country. So I hope everyone recognizes what time it is right now and gets really serious.
They don't.
It's the
try to be optimistic.
You know what we should do? you know the minutes to midnight clock, the doomsday clock they have.
Oh, yeah.
We should get one of those.
Yeah.
We'll call it the minutes to Civil War. There it is.
Yeah.
Yep.
And we'll inch it forward. I love this. I'm seeing a bunch of Democrats tweeting in celebration.
Yeah.
And I'm just responding being like, I'm really glad they did this because democracy is very dangerous to our democracy.
Right. Democracy dies during the democratic process.
That's right.
Yeah.
The number of people on the what you would assume to be the responsible, reasonable left that are going to jump on this and be like, oh, well, and make excuses. There has been no due process to remove Trump from the primaries. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure what mechanism Colorado is using. I'm not sure what
they redefined the law, right? They defined it as it can be for a president, and that was what they voted on, I guess.
Well, yeah, I suppose, but there's no other, it's unprecedented for someone to be, he hasn't been charged with insurrection. Insurrection is a specific thing, and it's something that's outlawed. Outlined in the law. There are certain criteria that have to be met. He hasn't met them to actually have carried
right.
Been
there's
the
legislative branch has codified what insurrection would be.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. There's an insurrection act.
Yeah.
But let's address this because everyone keeps saying the same thing, and I don't think there's a definitive answer just yet. But we have this. Trump campaign blasts Colorado judges who removed him from 2024 ballot, vows to appeal to the U.S. Supreme Court, as he should, and he has to. And a lot of people are saying, but that they do this and Trump will immediately go to SCOTUS and get it overturned. Perhaps. But also understand, I don't know if the Supreme Court may be favorable to Trump, perhaps. I don't know that the Supreme Court actually can overturn this ruling.
Yeah.
I'm sure you're going to get a bunch of people screaming the 9th and 10th Amendment. This is not a general election held under U.S. constitutional rules. This is a private primary nomination process held by a state in tandem with other states to determine at a national convention who a private organization will choose to be their nominee, not a general. The Supreme Court may very well take up the case, and they may say, we have no jurisdiction over what a state organization is doing as it pertains to a private organization's nomination process. Imagine if someone was running to be the captain of the bridge club and there was some tomfoolery about and the ballots were, screwed up. And then someone, I'm going to go to the Supreme Court over this. They'd be like, we don't care about your private organization's leadership structure.
Right. Mm-hmm.
I don't know the Supreme Court can intervene in a primary.
Yeah.
And even if it was federal, the precedence isn't really great. I mean, the Texas case where Texas attempted to sue all the states where there was discrepancies in the election, that never even got into the Supreme Court. So, I mean, this is just lawfare. Even if Trump can get it into the Supreme Court, they're just bleeding him out. They're making him expend resources that no other candidate's having to expend. And they're also beating it more into people's heads. Insurrection, 14th Amendment.
Yeah.
And then those of us that are, in the news every day will say, no, but actually he's never been charged. He's never been convicted. Yeah. But all people are going to hear who are swayable is they're going to hear, oh, insurrection. Man, he must have been guilty of an insurrection.
But look, the worrying thing, and the reason why everyone should get ready with their fifth, maybe they have Jack or something, is because when you have, what is Trump polling at? 2.3 up in aggregate across the country.
Ridiculous.
You can say Trump is an insurrectionist, but the average person is not accepting that. Mm-hmm. No matter how many times they scream it, the average person in this country, the majority, not even the plurality, support Donald Trump. So you run the risk of ripping this country in half. Now I'll give you some predictions. Colorado removes Donald Trump from the primary. Several other states follow, and they even make reference to Colorado and other states. Trump gets removed from the primaries. They don't need to worry about the general election.
Right. Yep.
Ron DeSantis and Nikki Haley end up neck and neck. Ron DeSantis wins. You now have what? A 2024 four-way race? Probably not Biden, maybe. Let's say Biden, RFK Jr., Trump, and DeSantis all running. So perhaps what would happen then is no one gets 270 electoral votes. It goes to House delegations. It goes to Donald Trump. Let's say that Donald Trump is removed from the ballot in Colorado, but still ends up winning the nomination. I think Colorado has, as of 2020, like 1.6, 1.7 million Republican voters. What will end up happening is if numerous states that are blue, we don't expect Trump to win anyway, remove him from the ballot, Trump will win the Electoral College with 50, 60 million votes. and Joe Biden will have 75 or whoever, or Newsom. Trump will win the Electoral College, becoming president. The media will then say the Electoral College is archaic and broken. How can we have a president when he had 20 million less votes? The average person who doesn't pay attention has no idea why that is. They will simply be told people didn't vote for Trump, when the reality is you couldn't if you wanted to. Then what happens to the sentiment in this country? The people who support Trump won't back down. The people in Colorado who support him and want to vote for him, but who can't, will still keep supporting him. This is how I think we inch towards civil war.
That's why it's so dangerous. I mean, if you love this country and you want this country to remain as it is and continue on our path towards progress, like having the judicial branch step in and say, no, we're going to decide who's on the ballot, it's incredibly dangerous. And I think the Democrats just don't care. They're willing to burn down the entire system right now just to stop Trump from coming back into office.
They're ready for it to go to the Supreme Court. Like I can already hear them screeching about Clarence Thomas and his wife. Like if it goes there, like they've got that ready to go.
Absolutely.
You know, so that's like an invisible landmine that they plant all these waiting for it to go that way.
What happens when, without legislation, come August or July of 2024, I don't know, insert state Arizona, just says, look, we've gone over it. We think Colorado was right. Secretary of State just says, we will not be including Donald Trump on the ballot for the general election. Based on what we've seen across this country, the rulings are clear, blah, blah, blah. Sue us. And then they print the ballots without Trump.
Yeah, every single activist, justice right now at the state level, every single activist judge, they're licking their chops right now. They want to be the next ones to do this. And this is just blazing the path forward.
Arizona loves doing it.
Yeah, Arizona loves doing it. West Coast states.
Let me just say, I fully expect every single Trump supporter to not only agree with what I just said, but actually take it a step further. You should be thinking I'm wrong because I'm not going far enough as to what the Democrats are going to do. If you truly believe that 2020 was stolen from Trump in the most extreme ways with, Ian talks about flipping votes even that can be done through hacking voting machines and fraudulent ballots, then you better damn well believe that a Secretary of State banging a gavel, figuratively, is the first thing they do. If you think fraud is on the menu, the first thing they do is just erase Trump's name and say, sue us. And while you're suing them, they'll be doing who knows what.
Yeah.
Getting ready for phase 2.
I mean, look how tight the margins were in the key swing states where Trump maybe lost 2020. I mean, we're talking about 12,000 votes, 10,000 votes in just a couple of places. So all it takes is a few Secretary of States or even county auditors just to whoopsie and not have Trump on the ballot. Because they can say, look, we were confused. Like he's an insurrectionist, right? 14th Amendment. And then there you go.
Yeah, we thought everyone agreed. I mean, I don't know. What were you doing?
I
Like,
was listening.
media said it over and over again.
Yeah, exactly. I was listening to like CBS, ABC, all those types of places on the way in, and they use insurrection with a certain tone. There's no nuance to it whatsoever. They're in another dimension completely. And the people who listen to them, unless it's like someone listening to them to see what their point of view is, which I'm sure there's some like me and others of us, they buy into that dimension.
And I'll go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No.
This is fascinating. We'll get into it in a little bit, but Donald Trump recently had this quote where he was referring to Democrats poisoning the blood of this country through their bad policies, principally immigration. And you get all of the media screaming Trump is now like Hitler because Hitler wrote in Mein Kampf blood poison and things like that. The funny thing is, the people being polled in urban Democrat strongholds overwhelmingly agree with Donald Trump.
Yeah.
They're outraged over the migrant problem. Now, again, I will save the migrant stuff because we do have a bigger subject on that, but I just want to point out the media is acting like the American people don't matter at all.
Right.
It's almost as if the corporate press realized, you know what? We no longer convince people. Let's just keep saying the same thing, knowing they don't believe us. And who cares? The deep state will come in with the boot and the iron fist, and we'll do what we want anyway.
Yeah, the corporate press also talks about the Republicans who are for these types of things with Trump. And like they make it so the audience believes like, oh, well, the Republicans think it's good too, but it's the establishment cronies, who are into that. And they don't want you to they don't want you to question narrative whatsoever.
Let's jump to this next component of the story. From Raw's alerts, running candidate Vivek G. Ramaswamy has pledged to withdraw from the Colorado GP primary unless Trump is also allowed to be on the state's ballot. Additionally, he has demanded that Ron DeSantis, Chris Christie, and Nikki Haley do the same immediately. Bravo, good sir.
Man.
It's commendable.
He is basically just laid it down. I mean, he's everyone's before they can blink.
Yeah.
He's making that chess play. Now, Ron, Chris Christie, or Nikki Haley, who remains, I bet their polling drops. I bet people look at them as dishonorable for this. Look, you don't have to like Trump, but there's going to be a lot of Republicans who are upset they don't get a choice.
Yes.
You're being told by Colorado, we don't care what you think. You don't get a right to choose. Vivek is standing up. And he makes a really great point. In this long Twitter thread, Vivek tweets, "This is what an actual attack on democracy looks like. In an un-American, unconstitutional, and unprecedented decision, a cabal of Democrat judges are barring Trump from the ballot in Colorado. Having tried every trick in the book to eliminate President Trump from running in this election, the bipartisan establishment is now employing a new tactic to bar him from ever holding office again, the 14th Amendment. I pledge to withdraw from the Colorado GOP primary unless Trump is also allowed to be on the state's ballot, and I demand that Ron DeSantis, Chris Christie, and Nikki Haley do the same immediately, or else they are tacitly endorsing this illegal maneuver, which will have disastrous consequences for our country. Today's decision is the latest election interference tactic to silence political opponents and swing the election for whatever puppet the Democrats put up this time by depriving Americans of the right to vote for their candidate of choice. The 14th Amendment was part of the Reconstruction Amendments that were ratified following the Civil War. It was passed to prohibit former Confederate military and political leaders from holding high federal or state office. These men had clearly taken part in a rebellion against the United States, the Civil War. That makes it all more absurd that a left-wing group in Colorado is asking a federal court to disqualify the 45th president on the same grounds, equating his speech to rebellion against the U.S. And there's another legal problem. Trump is not a former officer of the United States, as that term is used in the Constitution, meaning Section 3 does not apply. As the Supreme Court explained in Free Enterprise Fund v. Public Company Accounting Oversight Board in 2010, quote, "An officer of the United States is someone appointed by the president to aid him in his duties under Article 2, Section 2. The term does not apply to elected officials and certainly not to the president himself." The framers of the 14th Amendment would be appalled to see this narrow provision intended to bar former U.S. officials who switched to the Confederacy from seeking public office, being weaponized by a sitting president and his political allies to prevent a former president from seeking re-election. Our country is becoming unrecognizable to our founding fathers.
Has there ever been a time when someone was prevented from being on a ballot in American history? I can't think of any.
I don't think it's ever been used.
Yeah, I mean, maybe not in any legitimate, like, large-scale kind of way. You know, maybe there was some, like, a criminal was trying to do something and then they made a filing. I don't know. I'd imagine it had to be.
I think the 14th has been used.
Yeah, not the 14th.
I could be wrong. I'm sure somebody on the internet will fact check us. This statement by Vivek is fantastic, and how fast he put that out, not just considering how much length and information he put in there is great, but in politics, a lot of times you get told, hey, wait, don't come out right away. Let's test this. Let's see if this is going to work out. You know, maybe Trump going to take it off the ballot. It's going to be good for you. Let's give it a couple days. I think this is pretty genuine. He just fired off right away and said the stakes are too high. Let's all rally around President Trump. Let's rally around us actually having a democratic process. I think that's awesome for him, and I think that's the right way forward.
He did this when Trump was about to get handed in to New York. You know, he came out right away on the phone in the back seat, right?
Yeah.
And no one else did anything. That was when I was like, "Oh, DeSantis is really weak."
And for this, if Trump for some reason is completely unavailable, Vivek is next in line. Not Nikki, not Ron, not Chris Christie. Yeah. Because Vivek has outright said, I will step aside if they keep playing these dirty games.
Yeah.
And it's a brilliant move. Let's say in the end, he removes himself from the GOP primary and no one else does. Let's say then something happens to Trump, he goes to jail and he's for some reason unable to do it. Trump supporters will select Vivek over anyone else because of his willingness to stand behind Donald Trump.
100%. Yeah.
I don't see how, like, if Vivek removes himself or whatever, if Trump and Vivek are removed from the running, I feel like that's a win for the establishment. Sure, there's going to be
start something else.
Well, I mean,
that's a full moose party.
That's possible too. But that would split, and I mean, how it ends up splitting up, is anyone's guess. But I don't think that it would be a positive right now because they're taking Trump off of the primaries and stuff. I don't know. I mean, maybe they could start another party.
It could be. I'm just going to call it Bull Moose for now, right? And then Republicans, and then we got Kennedy doing his thing, independent, and then the Democrats. Like, it should be interesting. if they do it. The Bull Moose Party did not do well, though.
No, unfortunately.
The
third parties never do. I mean, the Libertarian Party's been, struggling for decades.
That actually would be really funny if somehow Trump ends up the Libertarian nominee, and then the Libertarians get like 43% of the vote, and it's like, well, the Republicans are gone. That's it.
Don't worry, the Libertarians hate themselves. They hate everybody. So they'd hate Trump plenty.
But I would think if the 14th Amendment could keep him off as a Republican, it could just keep him off in general. He'd have to get write-in in the general election.
Yeah, has that ever happened? Has there ever been like a massive write-in for a candidate?
Not at the presidency.
There's like 6 or 9 states that you can't write someone in. I forget what.
Colorado, one of them.
I'm not sure, but someone was tweeting about it. I retweeted it, but there's like something like 9 states where you can't do a write-in. So that means likely, if he's not on the ballot, that he can't win. At least if he's on the ballot as a Republican.
Right.
I just don't see. I mean, I don't understand. Like I said, first of all, I don't understand the mechanism because he hasn't been found guilty of anything, and I feel like unless you've
doesn't matter, does it?
Apparently, it
does. They got
doesn't.
rid of Santos like that too.
Yeah, I mean Mendez is stuffing gold bars in his.
Well, but he's not even convicted.
No issues there.
What?
Yeah.
He's not even convicted.
No,
this is the point. We can all sit here and be like, yeah, Santos is a bad dude, but he wasn't convicted of anything.
Yeah, exactly. And due process doesn't matter apparently to the Democrats. This is clear, and I challenge any of my left-leaning or even left liberal friends to give me a reason as to why the Democrats do believe in due process, seeing as you've got Santos and this situation with Trump. I don't see any reason to believe that anything that they say about due process means anything at all to them. So, and I don't know what that means for the, I don't know what that means for the country. This is unprecedented. It's, totally new territory. It's clearly purely political. It's about an outsider who challenges the establishment. Whether or not you like Donald Trump is irrelevant. It's about an outsider that the establishment, the established order disapproves of, and they're doing whatever they can to make sure that he can't get back into office in opposition to what the people seem to want. He is leading the polls and they're removing him. This is to call this Banana Republic stuff is insufficient.
The dude is walking into like stadioms.
Yeah, exactly.
Cheered for.
And the only reason there hasn't been some kind of more action from the public is because of how comfortable society is now. I really believe that because life is so comfortable, not necessarily easy, but comfortable, and people are so sedated on whether it be pharmaceuticals or booze and smoking weed and all those things, which look, I'm not judging anyone that does. I have plenty of history of all kinds of substances and stuff like that, so I'm not dogging anyone. But because of those things, life is easy, life is comfortable, and life is a little on the numb side.
Yes.
Because of that, people aren't looking
It's like I've been saying it's like a pandemic of complacency.
Yeah, nobody wants. Why do you? Life is even a rough life in the West is a good life, and it's an easy life. So why do you really want to go ahead and unless? And this is probably going to upset some people, but unless you are actually mentally ill, which is what the left seems to, the more extreme left seems to go after, because those people are the ones that are the revolutionaries. They're the people that are upset.
Well, this is scientifically proven, actually.
Yeah.
That there's a higher density of mental illness among those who identify as left-leaning.
And so those people go and throw, Molotov cocktails at cop cars, and for some reason we ignore that and just say that's perfectly fine.
And I'd also say a lot of them, not all of them, but a lot of them don't have kids and don't feel this type of urgency to save the future for children, right? It's all like the luxury, like modern luxury complacency and stuff like that.
So think about when it's the far left going insane and burning things down, and the children grow up in the society of violence and chaos. Think about the things they will value when they get older. They're not going to like these people. Right. They're going to remember the horrors that they experienced. They're going to remember their family members killed, and they're going to understand struggle and pain, and they're probably going to be more conservative.
Yeah, probably.
I mean, the data is already there. I've said it 50 billion times. The conservatives just have more kids. And now you take any kid, you take the child of liberals, and you introduce them to a world where the far left is burning and destroying everything. These kids are going to live like rabbits, little tightly wound balls of stress and anxiety, and they're going to despise living in that world.
I hope that's the positive outlook, and I try to be optimistic, but it's also they could inherit complete nihilism and not even know any better. It might take much longer for them to understand, a moral center. in a lot of ways.
And there can
cities.
unfortunately be a lot of pain between now and
That's the
A
thing.
lot.
And also, like, what kind of establishment gets put in place of the liberal establishment that the Democrats are literally trying to destroy? I don't care. They can give all the lip service they want to democracy. They don't give a crap about democracy at all, and they definitely don't care about liberalism. They've been wearing liberalism like a skin suit for ages. So what kind of government, what kind of structure does it take? And it seems that the structure is going to be more racist, less fair.
100%.
It's going to be less focused on economic growth and more focused on, it seems like it's going to be focusing on shrinking not just the economy, but shrinking the population, because we've got people that are so concerned about what, in my opinion, is climate alarmism. All of these things mean a future that is significantly worse than our recent past, at the very least, possibly significantly worse than any of the horrors of the 20th century. Because if you're doing degrowth, you end up with population collapse. You have like we talk about a crisis of competency now. When you have a population collapse, there are entire industries that disappear. That's how you lose knowledge, because no one learns how to do it from the people that do know how to do whatever the topic is. And then when those people die, that information is lost. Or at the very least, the skill to do it well is lost.
No,
And
it's all gone.
Yeah.
This is the funny thing about people who harp on conspiracies about the moon landing and stuff, questioning how do we lose technology.
He looked at me real quick. I don't know if everyone saw.
Oh, yeah.
Tim did look at me.
It's just
everybody.
fascinating that, like, you know, where's you had a laptop. Everyone listening, you had a laptop 5 years ago. Where is it? Go through all the files. Go through your tax documents. Where are your tax forms from last year? Do you remember? I know a lot of you probably do. A lot of people don't. And then they try to log in every year going, what was my PIN? And then they're typing away and they can't get in. You know, look, you can't even remember where your tax forms are. You're going to remember where some obscure document about radiation shielding is from 40 years ago? Good luck. The population degrowth stuff is basically, we talked about it with Alex Jones on the show when he was talking about Ishmael, the gorilla, and, you know, they want people to return to a living in the wilderness kind of lifestyle. I mean, to be fair, Tucker even said he didn't think technology was helping us the other day. He said, you know, explain to me one technology that made people happy or something to that effect.
Well,
It's pros and
COVID
cons.
essentially showed the regime that as long as you keep the Netflix on, and as long as people can get enough money to go to the store and buy their favorite foods, they will take a obscene amount of oppression that I never would have thought was even believable.
Dude,
before.
look, if you can guarantee sunny days, you can absolutely abuse your population. Look at what people do and put up with in California. I mean, I would go out there periodically. I've been out there a few times this year, and it is absolutely beautiful all of the friggin' time.
I love it.
It's absolutely gorgeous all the time. It's so nice that the government can just absolutely abuse the population. It's super expensive. Taxes are ridiculous. They've got, you know, obviously you've got homeless population. I saw a video the other day from 10 years ago of when Gavin Newsom was the mayor of San Francisco, swearing up and down that he's going to clean up the homeless people. A decade later, it isn't any better in San Francisco. It's literally spread to the rest of the
He didn't clean it up when she showed up.
He
kidnapped him.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. It's so nice.
I know.
If you get up, when you wake up every day and it's 75 degrees, 350 days of the year, you'll put up with a lot of crap.
Yep.
I want to pull this story from Polygon. Can Alex Garland's Civil War somehow be apolitical? A bipartisan California-Texas alliance is certainly out there. I actually don't think so. In the initial trailer, when we saw the brief map showing the breakdown of what this movie thinks Civil War would look like, we said it's absurd. We didn't have the full details. We're getting a little bit more details, and now it's starting to make sense as to what their vision of a Civil War could be. Polygon writes, Ex Machina director Alex Garland looks like he will try to do the impossible with his new film Civil War, when his new film Civil War hits theaters in 2024, depict a second Civil War in which the U.S., without directly engaging with the politics of why the war is taking place, depict a second Civil War in the U.S. without explaining why. It's not hard to see why Garland might want to avoid thorny connections between the movie and the very real politicians and political groups, blah, blah, blah. That said, it's still audacious to try to remove politics from even a fictional Civil War. a fight typically born out of political disagreement that can't be resolved by any other means besides open conflict. Whatever disagreement is at the heart of the conflict, which the first trailer carefully avoids pinning down, puts California and Texas in the same boat, which sounds unthinkable at the present moment. And for that reason, a map graphic created based on the trailer has obviously gone viral. Well, here it is, and I actually completely agree with it. And I completely agree with this depiction of what they believe a civil war in the United States might look like. Now, the movie trailer that we've seen so far, we don't know the movie, but we'll see the movie. But ignore the movie, and let's stop and go back to Colorado removing Donald Trump from the ballot, what this could lead to, and why it could lead to, or be a component of, what causes civil war. I do not believe that Trump's rock-solid 40% support would ever abandon him if the way he is stopped is through illegal and unconstitutional measures and dirty politics. If Trump, announced he was retiring, people would be angry. They'd say, no, but they would be angry with Trump, and they'd try and find someone of Vivek. If the Democratic Party uses obscure interpretations and novel interpretations of the law to remove Donald Trump, and then tries to hold an election without Trump after even one state removes him, the likelihood of some kind of civil conflict becomes substantially more real. So let's take a look at this map. Republic of California, Second Republic of Texas. When you look at this map in and of itself, the vision of what could happen to this country actually makes a lot of sense. In the film, they mention that what do they call it? The California-Texas Alliance or something like this. The Western forces are heading towards D.C. You have the Florida Alliance. This is their map from the film. Let me break it down for you what I think is going to happen in this movie. So there is some kind of political disagreement resulting in what appear to be the blue states breaking off. Remaining loyal, and I have it backwards. And the red states are breaking off. The view of this film is that the more conservative areas are the ones that are going to secede for some reason. So, of course, you end up with northern states, which lean red, and to Washington and Oregon, because they are very red outside of the cities, they go Western forces. They're outside of the United States. The Florida Alliance is the traditional South, minus South Carolina, North Carolina, Virginia. But, of course, this is Southern. This is more conservative leaning. Texas, well, they were their own republic. So they secede and say, we're doing our own thing. California has the Cal Exit movement. They say, we're doing our own thing. So what is a Texas-California alliance? It's just that. It would be like the U.S. and the U.K. aligning on a military operation. We don't share a government. You can make an argument about NATO, I suppose, but we don't share an active government. Texas and California aren't actually functioning under one president. They're in an alliance to prevent the old United States from taking over their states. So Texas says, we don't care for the way you live your lives, California. California says, we don't like what you do, Texas. We both agree we do not want D.C. to send their troops into our territory and take us over, so we'll work together. Western forces and Florida Alliance probably agree politically, but are split by states that are in proximity to deep blue and more heavily controlled loyalist territories. I think the other thing to consider that we don't see in this movie is the potentiality of where military bases are and where weaponry is stored, which could result in the current, the states you see being loyalist or having seceded. There's basically, we got 5 factions in this. Based on everything we're seeing now, I don't know what you guys think, but I think it's plausible.
Yeah. New York, I grew up in New York, and most of New York is also red, though. I feel like cities would secede.
But New England is so deep blue, and it's so population dense. It makes sense that these states are locked in. I mean, obviously, Pennsylvania is purple, and Ohio is purple. West Virginia is 86% Trump supporting, but small population.
Yeah.
Look, if anything happened, the first Civil War, what happens to Maryland? Maryland's a slave state with tremendous Confederacy sentiment. So Abraham Lincoln says, just start arresting the politicians. And that's what happens. They round up 30 or so, between 20 and 30 state reps from Maryland, just because of their political views, lock them up.
One of the things that happened with the Civil War that happened in reality, they were trying to secede. What happens if there's not really a movement to try to secede? There's just the political strife that we have, because again, we've talked about how the divide in the U.S. goes right through Grandma's kitchen.
Yeah.
It's not regional anymore.
Right.
So like, what does it mean to?
But it wasn't.
What?
It wasn't. The first American Civil War was not regional. Maryland, Delaware were slave states, and they're north of D.C.
There was still clear.
There was
line.
not. I mean, okay, fair
the
point.
North and the South.
The Mason-Dixon line.
Yeah.
But the point is, it was the political sentiments were divided. Maryland, Delaware, slave states north of D.C. had no choice but to be in because of geography.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and that's a technicality. Virginia and I believe North Carolina were like, we are not interested in Confederacy when the first secession wave happened. Yeah. And then the war starts, and then you start to see sentiments shift again.
So what is? I guess I'm trying to conceptualize what it possibly would look like, without the secession of states, because I don't know that there's going to be
like any other civil war. You don't need back then. I love this line because not only was it in National Treasure, and Nicolas Cage is based AF. I don't know politically. I'm just saying I like his movies.
He's great.
But there's a line where they say, this is true. I read about it. Before the Civil War, people would say in other countries or in this country, the United States are.
Yeah.
After the Civil War, it was the United States is. Yeah. It was one country. So at the time, a state seceding was like it's like Brexit.
Yeah.
Now we wouldn't see that because people don't view these states as sovereign nations unto themselves. They view them as just regions of a country. It would look more like Syria or Spain or any other traditional civil war we've seen throughout history before the United States entered its civil war. But I think a really great example of what you can expect is actually in this map from this film. How is it that Washington and Oregon are part of the Western forces when you have Wyoming, Idaho, Montana? I mean, these are Utah. These are more right-leaning, not Iowa, but these are more right-leaning. But hold on, Minnesota's fairly Democrat. It's because conquer. You will have powerful military forces in certain areas, a lot of weapons in Montana, and they decide these are the territories we control, and they expand and lock up control of these states. That's it. Oregon, Portland, and Seattle, as far left as you can go. Someone made the point on social media, they expect the narrative to be that the Western forces immediately captured and occupy Portland and Seattle, and it's the ruins of Portland after the Civil War is just absolute chaos with far left forces.
It's already pretty ruined right now.
Yeah. Now add far leftists with machine guns, fighting with Western forces trying to lock up the coastal region.
Yeah. I mean, what kind of scares me about this is that politics is downstream from culture, and right now we've got really heightened tensions. That a court just came in and said, "Hey, we're going to take away your democratic process." Mm-hmm. So tensions are running high. The regime always kind of does these 2-for-1s, where maybe the court case will work, they'll get Trump off there, or maybe it will fail in court. Trump has to expend a bunch of resources. A bunch of people get really, really mad and do or say something that then allows them to turn the full scope of the national security state on them. Biden's already said that Trump supporters are the number one threat to national security. So the whole state apparatus is already tooled towards going after people who disagree with the state. Yep. I would just say, everybody chill out, work on ballot harvesting. You want to watch the show, but we should be encouraging people to follow Ramaswamy's lead, unity, and stay focused on the actual goal.
It's worth pointing out that a Green Beret is telling you that.
Yeah.
Like the guy that has been trained to go into countries and destabilize them and train local forces how to fight.
I've seen a few civil wars, and most of them are still ongoing, and most of them are pretty horrible. I mean, between Iraq and Yemen and Syria, like, it's nasty stuff, and people might say they want that when they're frustrated, but it's nothing we ever want to see here.
To some degree, do you feel like as I'm having flashbacks thinking of what lockdowns were like in autonomous zones and people being murdered and fires, right? Like, I feel like we're kind of there.
I mean,
already to a degree.
We have during the riots. I mean, the Chaz was a real thing in Seattle. There was a warlord running the thing.
In Georgia, they killed some
murders.
kids.
Yeah.
Where was your first deployment as a Green Beret?
Iraq.
Yeah.
Iraq in 2003. So I got there. We took down Saddam. Saddam ran. We didn't get him initially, but the regime kind of fell, and there was kind of a calm. And that's when we really started messing things up. When we fired the entire Ba'ath Party and drove that rift, I mean, just watching that break out. And at first, it was all just channeled kind of against us and sort of the Iraqi government. But as we got into 2006, 2007, when the Iraqis were really at each other's throats, and that's still ongoing to this day, like that, when they stopped targeting us and started targeting each other, and every morning you'd wake up and you'd see people with their hands tied behind their back with baling wire, their hands swelled up like Mickey Mouse balloon. I mean, just like horrific stuff. And this was like neighborhood by neighborhood. And these people had at one point in time been neighbors together. If you talk to Iraqis, they were just like, this was street by street, this was sect by sect. It's nothing we want to see here.
Were you
and 20 years.
Yeah.
And it's ongoing.
Still going.
People need to understand, when we look to the American Civil War, our view of Civil War is completely incorrect, because that was different. If we actually had some kind of legitimate Civil War, we're talking decades.
Yeah, absolutely.
Your children will be born in this, and they will grow up in it, and then one day fight in it.
You think that there are people that are at each other's throats now? Wait until the killing starts.
I know.
Wait until the blood feud starts.
That's the way it goes, yeah.
You know, wait till
Rwanda.
Yeah,
Wait till it goes Hatfield McCoy,
Can't let it go.
and then you add more and more and more to the mix, and it just
Yeah.
It could be something as simple as this. How does a civil war start? The political tensions are there. We are standing on a powder keg. Well, we've already had with the Chaz Chop, people were killed. We already had a Trump supporter, Aaron Danielson, in what was it, Portland? Portland.
Yeah, it was Portland.
Shot and killed in the street for no reason. Now, it was the DOJ. DOJ went after that guy, Michael Reinl, and he is no longer alive. And it seems to end it. I wonder if the reason why they went so heavy-handed after this guy was they knew that if he was let go, you could start a blood feud, which would result in like gang-like retribution and revenge killings. But let's say that we're at the point of heightened political tensions in 2024 with Trump already being removed from Colorado, and you get someone shoots someone else. Leftist shoots and kills a conservative. His brother says these guys in Colorado, they're in Oklahoma. I like Colorado, Oklahoma as an example I like to use. And they say they killed my brother and they fled, and the police and the government won't do anything about it. So they get a posse. They go into Colorado. They get revenge.
Yeah.
Now that guy's dad says these psychopaths from Oklahoma stormed into my home and killed my son. So he gets a posse. But now he's not after one guy, he's after 7.
Yeah.
Then you get 7 people killed. Then the brothers, fathers, and friends of those men say, this fight's getting crazy. We need help.
Yeah.
They call in, maybe it starts with Neighborhood Watch, militias.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden you've got people lining up on the border holding guns.
Yeah.
And then the Colorado people come over and say, John Smith, now, turn him over and his men. And they say, never gonna happen. They raise arms. Who knows? I'm not saying it's a guarantee, but these are
It
possibilities.
seems like
In the past,
at some point, unfortunately.
It's always something small like that. You never know what it's all. When you set the tensions this high,
Yes.
it's all unintended consequences.
In
after
the
that.
past decade, there has been one standoff with the with the people and the feds, the Bundy Ranch,
yeah.
and the feds backed down because they didn't want to get into a gunfight with dudes with rifles, because that just looks bad. It's just bad all around. What?
They've been there before.
Yeah, it's just bad all around.
Yes.
But that's happened already once.
Right.
The feds have not forgotten about that. And they don't it's not like they just blow that off. They're not going to let that happen again.
Right.
You know, the apparatus that was designed to find terrorists, that was honed to be able to find the dude hiding in the mountains, in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
And we've proven that it's basically, there's not really anywhere you can hide from the federal government. That apparatus is turned onto the American population currently.
It's been like that for a minute with Operation Northwoods.
Yeah.
You know,
I think
they're bloodthirsty.
I think a very important distinction as well is one of the mistakes this film makes with this map. State borders are meaningless.
Yeah.
100% meaningless. So in Colorado, you've got a northern district trying to secede and join. Who's north of them? Which state is it? Is it Wyoming?
Wyoming, yeah.
They're trying. I think that's what they're trying to do. You've got California trying to secede and join the state, create the state of Jefferson or Greater Idaho. So Republic of California would not look like this. The Republic of California would look like a thin sliver along the coast. A lot of people assume look, the conservatives and the farmers are the eastern parts of California. Liberals are in the western and southwestern areas. You go north, it gets more conservative. That country would rip itself into pieces.
Yeah.
So you look at all these other states as well. The loyalist states probably would retain their form in the bulk in the New England area because they're not a conflict with each other. But if you go over here where you've got 3 factions all surrounding, including Nevada, yet Nevada would not exist. California would instantly annex territories, trying to seize control of water reservoirs and things like that. And the Western forces would take the northern part and fortify it to bolster the defenses of their own territories. Nevada would be ripped into a million pieces based on this map. But I guess people might still instinctively or reflexively call it Nevada. The border is more of a geographic marker than a declaration of jurisdiction.
The state has deployed a National Guard to like actually reinforce a border.
This is a wild map just because of Utah. Like, how would that function? I mean, that's a mass. Like, see, this is the problem. These borders are impossible. Enforcing that border is impossible. This state would be you got to put dotted lines through it, where it's a split state.
Maybe the movie's a pro-wall film.
Yeah, there's they build a big wall. Yes. Nevada's just one big perfect 30-foot wall all around the entire
labyrinth
state.
By the end of the movie. It's like walls, yeah. And then Trump's face over it.
Turns out to be a prequel to Maze Runner, and it's like we had no idea.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about the next story that brings us to the actual potentiality of civil war, and it's this one from the New York Post. 12,000 migrants cross southern border in a single day, Tuesday, highest total ever. Dude, these videos are insane. I don't know if you guys have seen them.
Yeah.
And the federal government is doing it intentionally.
100%.
Yup.
Yeah.
So why would there be a Florida alliance in this film? Because the southern states say you have inflicted this upon us.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's funny when they call it like the border crisis, like a hurricane's a crisis. Like you didn't see that coming, but this is 100% the plan of the Democrats. And every single Democrat, this isn't just Biden. At the federal level, every single Democrat in the House and the Senate, they are part and parcel of this. They have voted for it. They've voted against border security. Right now, they're going to the mat and they're fighting against the Republican plan to actually secure our border. And we think right now there's 10 million illegals that have come into the country, 118.
15 to 16 maybe.
Yeah.
And you know what Chicago's mayor is saying?
No, we can't
It's
take
the
it anymore.
Republicans that are doing it. He said it's this governor of Texas sending them all here. It's his fault. Meanwhile, Texas is trying to stop them with everything it has.
Yeah.
Texas just passed a law saying that it's illegal to enter the state of Texas.
Illegally.
Yeah, illegally. So,
Well, because typically border crossings are a federal issue.
thing, yeah.
And the argument is Texas has no right to deport. Only the federal government can deport to other countries. Texas is basically asserting the right to arrest and detain anyone. And I think what's going to end up happening is these people who are coming in en masse in an invasion, and it is an invasion, they're going to be placed in very serious squalor and horrifying conditions. The Democrats will weaponize that
100%.
and say Trump is Hitler.
Yep.
So this is what they're building up to. When Trump gets elected, I would not be surprised if Trump says it's time to deport these people, and you end up with camps full of migrants.
Right.
The Democrats then say, oh no, we warned you, he's Hitler.
Yeah,
exactly. Well, and the Democrats, I mean, their plan's very diabolical. They want a mass wave of illegal immigrants they can pump into all these different urban centers. So the next time there's a census, they can count heads, and from that they can make new legislative seats. I mean, it's a pure power play, and then ballot harvest their way there. They're eroding any kind of verification for citizenship to be able to vote in elections, like in my state in Washington, and they don't care about any of the carnage that comes along with that. I mean, 118,000 Americans have been killed by fentanyl in the last couple of years. That's come across the southern border, and like the Democrats don't even talk about that. I mean, that's the number one killer in our district right now. It's just absolute insane.
I truly believe that the fact that the media is so lockstep with the the DNC message, that I don't know that the American people can beat that kind of propagandization.
Oh yeah, you know how hard it is to get answers down at the border wall, like from the border patrol or anybody. Like the sheriff's the only one who can talk about it publicly.
Yeah,
honestly.
I don't think your average person believes it.
Oh yeah, they can't because the media doesn't report on it like the way they should. Because it's like watching actual like the skin of a human erode, right? And you're watching like the skeleton start to show itself. I mean, it's a total mess with all the fentanyl coming through, like millions of pounds down there, and it's just nonsense. And then no one's allowed to talk about it. I went to the police station in Yuma because I was getting the runaround from the border patrol because they're not allowed to talk to you. They pulled me over a bunch for just being there.
Really?
Yeah. And then the police, I'm wondering what they think about this, and they're not allowed to talk to you. They were going to make me sign a form to at least do a ride along to see the town with them. My wife had to sign that form, but she had to be there. I was in Yuma. My wife is in West Virginia. Like, they make it impossible for journalists to do it right. The Border Patrol will give you a press tour of all this stuff, but that's like, what to expect from a press tour.
Yeah.
That's what AOC got when she cried.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, we have videos of actual federal agents removing border barriers and allowing migrants to illegally enter the country.
It's absolutely insane.
It's depraved.
And when you look at who's coming into the country, I went down to Yuma in 2021 too, and I was down there in the summertime, pretty hot, pretty treacherous journey.
Like 116 degrees in July. Yeah.
A treacherous journey if you were a refugee seeking refuge.
Right.
But I didn't see any of those people. I saw guys that were my age and younger that did not look like they had just trekked across the desert.
that's
They were getting bussed right up there. The whole thing. I mean, you think like chaotic border scene. There's people like jumping across the border. I saw a little bit of that, but by and large, it was a very controlled flow of people coming into the country.
And people don't think about, like, so Yuma is a good example of how weird it is, because it's not like that giant trek I think a lot of people imagine going through the desert. There's a highway you can see through the wall that you're getting dropped off at. A lot of people spend a lot of money to get flown into the Mexicali airport. Then they get driven to that highway. There's people set up in tents along the highway, send you camouflage gear, water, cigarettes. You walk like 30 minutes to the wall, and then Border Patrol is there like TSA. It's like soft TSA. They got water for you. They got a tent. They tag your bags, literally. They had an easier time talking to Border Patrol than I did.
Yeah, when I was down there, we couldn't get hotel. I actually went down there with Representative Paul Gosar and his team, and we couldn't get hotels in Yuma because the federal government had booked the vast majority of them for illegal immigrants.
Yeah, it seemed like such a controlled portal.
Yeah,
because the immigrants don't stay there either. They they're there. They get
plane tickets, bus tickets,
and sent right out.
Yeah, you go. I mean, there was people tweeting coming home from the TPUSA event. That you guys
that was actually St. Clair.
Yeah, she was putting that stuff up. But every time I've flown into Arizona in the last couple of years, it's only been once or twice, but I've seen that exact same thing. Yeah. It's right up in your face. They're not hiding it.
She was going hard after Delta, and I'm like, oh,
good for her.
Sucks because I really like Delta.
No, I predict that Ashley St. Clair is bringing down Delta, and I meant that as a double entendre. I'm sorry for people who got mad at that, but I was like, is Delta trending because of her? But the videos were going around, and it's good. People should know about it. I mean, when I was a teacher in Westchester, New York, and they were flying illegal immigrants into that airport. And that's a small little area, like outside of the city.
Do you guys remember when the Biden admin was caught trafficking children?
Yeah.
This is not even in dispute. This is a fact. Joe Biden was engaged in human trafficking.
I think that was actually the airport I'm talking about, the Westchester airport.
Right. That's right.
Yep. It's insane.
And I think, was it James O'Keefe who had the story? Someone had a story where maybe it wasn't James O'Keefe, where they had undercover video of one of the, I think it was a Border Patrol guy being like, if the American people knew what we were doing, they would revolt. Yeah.
Carrie Lake shared a letter that she got with me from a guy from Border Patrol, and it was like, they've given up on the border here. The post he was at, he's like, there's hours a day where it's not even patrolled.
I don't think they've given up. That's their plan.
Well, yeah. He thinks they've given up, right? But this is a controlled collapse, is what it seems like.
Yeah, maybe because they fully expect this country to be in full scale conflict, and who do you think is going to fight against the American people? The people who want to be receiving the benefits and privileges of a country for which they are not citizens.
I mean, we got senators that are saying that we should put illegal immigrants into the United States military. I think Los Angeles is trying to make them police officers right now, illegal immigrants. I mean, just absolute insanity.
Yeah. It's depraved. It doesn't make any sense. But it does for them. This is like their logic. It's logical for what they do.
For them, all they care about is power. That's it. Like they mean what they're doing in Colorado, what they're doing at the border with the fentanyl. The only thing they care about is raw political power.
Yes.
If you operate under the assumption that they actually have a plan to help America, none of this makes sense.
Right.
If you understand that their plan is to destroy this country, it all makes sense.
100%. And then you just roll out Biden, and you can write off everything to him just being old and incompetent. Like, oh yeah, it's just Biden. He just kind of stumbles around. Like they just must be kind of messed up. Like, no, this is a very well-oiled machine. It's a delivered plan.
The argument that they make is that it's replacement population because Americans aren't having enough kids, and it's because we need the people working to be able to keep the Ponzi scheme of Social Security going. That's the argument they make, right?
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, but
the Civil War is trending.
Well, I mean, realistically, this is legitimately, whatever people think about how often we talk about, Civil War here, this is, it's history making. It's unprecedented. And they're, so, what's his name?
They're locking up journalists. We had Owen just got out.
Yeah.
The guy from the Blaze is about to go in.
Well, that was today, actually.
Was it today?
Yeah, let me take a look at his...
Down at the America Fest, I'm looking for his name, so I forgot his name, but that actor who was arrested at the airport after the Lady Ballers premiere, like the feds, he was, I guess, at Jan 6, and the feds had already dealt with him 3 years ago. And they went and they arrested him at the airport after going to the Daily Wire premiere.
I mean, all of this gives the regime a great excuse to have another Biden-read sermon where he's like, "Look, these guys, we can't trust them. You know what they did on January 6th?
Exactly.
Like they're already moving that direction. But don't worry, my administration has it under control."
It's insane because when he was running for president, I use running loosely, like Kamala's staff was donating money to get arsonists bail money.
Yeah.
You know, like they were severely encouraging violence. There was that mayor out in maybe Portland who went to the Capitol or the courthouse burning. I forget his name. I always forget his name. But there's that crazy video of him like bathing in the smoke. Like he was getting baptized.
He was trying to pretend like he was going down there, and like he attempted to be cool with Antifa,
then
and they
went after
attacked
him.
him.
Yeah.
Then they tried to burn his condo down.
right.
It's like they're not going to be your friends, Ted. You're not cool. You might as well
right.
just crack down on him. But he's still, to this day, he's attempting to appease those people,
didn't
mostly
learn
because
anything.
he's a coward.
Yeah, clearly.
Yeah.
They did like a lock-in in his like lobby or something.
Yeah, he lived in one of those high rises downtown, and they basically like tried to light the whole thing on fire.
So Steve Baker does not have to surrender. Apparently, it's being reported that he won't have to surrender until after Christmas.
Okay, but still surrendering.
Yeah.
Sheesh.
His self-surrender would be postponed until after Christmas, and the Justice Department has assigned a new AUSA to his case. You know, Tucker made a really great point the other night when he said, "What someone's going to say no," and that's another component of civil war.
Yeah.
So
At what point does someone just say no? Yeah.
How long? Was it like 10? No. How was it 10 years ago or longer? Remember that family in New Hampshire didn't want to pay taxes? And so they just like locked their doors, and then the feds showed up and surrounded the building, and it was like this really crazy thing. I don't know. So it was a wild story that happened, I think, at the end of the 2000s or something like that. Well, nobody really cares. It's one family refusing to pay taxes. But this stuff is every day. What happens when you get one by one people just saying no?
Yeah.
I mean, there was that one guy. Remember that one guy who they shot and killed? He was the morbidly obese elderly man.
Yeah.
Who was posting stupid crap on the internet.
75 years old or whatever. Guy could be.
And so they did a pre-dawn raid and kicked in his door.
Like you need to send the entry team to the 75.
They had already talked to the guy too. Like they knocked on his door and talked to him.
Give me a break. So Frank Luntz posted this recently. Colorado has proven Trump's theory true that he is the victim of political persecution. His poll numbers won't drop. On the contrary, they will rise. That kind of is worth noting. Frank Luntz is not a pro-Trump kind of dude at all. And if he can even see that this is proving Trump right, like so there was an argument to be made that, obviously I was convinced that they were after Trump, after January 6th, as soon as the impeachment stuff was going on, I was convinced they were after Trump. But that being said, like someone like Frank Luntz to openly acknowledge it, I mean, that says something about, what people are going to see when they look at the situation. You hear the Democrats talk about democracy constantly, and it is clear that they are not interested in democracy. And this really, I don't see how you can make the argument that they are, and with a straight face.
They're tyrants.
I want to pull up some of these posts from Ashley St. Clair as well as Taylor Hansen. These depict, we have this from Ashley St. Clair, migrants placed next to me on a premium cabin still has a bag from a processing center. A majority of this flight is migrants bussed in from the processing center. Can Delta please let all of their customers know what medical screenings are being done for these migrants illegally crossing our border from all over the world and being flown on their flights? The big move right now is to get people to cancel and boycott Delta and to give Delta the Bud Light treatment, because Delta is apparently receiving funding from somewhere to cover the costs and facilitate human trafficking. Delta Airlines appears to be, based on what we're seeing from Taylor Hansen and Ashley St. Clair, Delta Airlines appears to be human trafficking. And now the question is, who's paying for it?
Yeah.
People.
So we don't use Delta.
I think we are the taxpayers.
Perhaps the taxpayers.
So I
Delta
think
either.
the boycott's a great idea. I think it's fantastic. We've shown before that we can make this. We can actually get a reaction from these companies and corporations. So that's probably the right way to go.
Taylor Hansen on Twitter says, on X, illegal migrants are littered throughout the Phoenix airport right now. They're receiving priority boarding and expedited security. Many have no idea where they're going. Locations include Charlotte, Philadelphia, New York City, and Texas. Multiple had to be escorted from the women's restroom by security. Take a look at this video.
You got like 8 right in this area,
Ya, ok. Hola, ¿cómo están? ¿De dónde son ustedes?
Venimos muy lejos.
¿Como Guatemala, Venezuela? Ah, son mexicanos. Ah, ok. Yo soy de Nuevo Laredo, entonces. Yo soy reportero de inmigración, así. Entonces he visto lo de la crisis.
You guys speak Spanish? He's asking him where they're from, saying he's reporting on the issue. And obviously, I think he said Mexico.
Yeah.
My Spanish is very rudimentary.
Yeah.
But there's a really funny moment where someone from NBC said, when you're just trying to board a plane, but someone accused you of being a migrant because you don't look like them or something like this. Ashley St. Clair points out, they're holding processing packets. But NBC, these people are evil.
Course,
this
of
is
course.
what they do.
Yeah. Well, they want to scare everybody who's going to even ask the basic question of like, why are we letting these people into our country? They're going to throw out you're racist to get them. Okay, no, I'm sorry, I'm not racist.
Yeah.
Like, please don't accuse me of being racist again. Like, but no, our country's being invaded. It's right up in your face. You're paying for it.
Yes. People need to move past that. Being afraid of being name called.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like anyone that's in politics that's not a progressive leftist, like, and that's, that's not really that's not a lot of people. The progressive left they're loud on the internet, but there's not a whole lot of them. But at this point, if you're not a progressive leftist, being called racist should be, irrelevant to you, because anytime that you do anything at all that they don't like, it doesn't matter if they can somehow tacitly accuse you of racism. That's what they're going to do.
Yeah.
So there's not a whole lot of point in paying any attention.
That's their whole MO.
Yeah.
We kill the language.
Yeah.
Hitler means that. Hitler, insurrection, misogyny. Hey, none of those words mean anything anymore because they just overuse it.
I mean, I've been even complaining about when it comes to people using the term genocide when it comes to the stuff going on in Gaza,
right?
Because it's not a genocide.
Right.
If Israel wanted to genocide the Palestinians in Gaza, they could literally genocide every single living human being in Gaza. So the idea that it's a genocide is not.
I want to go back to using words the way they should be used.
Yeah,
that's how we get back to objective.
Well,
reality.
we just have to ignore these people.
Yeah,
and for too long, people. I talked about this last night at TPUSA. I said that for a while I believed that there was no good and evil. I believed that it was just different worldviews and that it was subjective and everyone was trying to do what they thought was right. And you get older and you start to learn. No, there's malicious evil. Their intention is harm, destruction, making your life worse, helping no one. That's evil.
Your average nihilist that doesn't actually, that really believes there is no point to life and stuff. There's no reason for them to do anything other than whatever impulse, catches their fancy. So, if you don't believe in, I'm of the opinion that if you don't believe in some form of higher power, you likely are going to just be a nihilist that thinks that there is no morality. There's no real right or wrong because everyone's going to die and, the heat death of the universe and all that. And if that's your outlook on life, there's not, what's the real reason? There's no reason to say that anything is better than anything else. So why not why not watch it all burn? Right.
And nihilism increases like the short-term benefits. Like so it'll make you like the most animalistic, violent, depraved, because they don't care about consequences. Right. And they have no moral center whatsoever. So you see all of this stuff in the cities where I remember when I lived in Brooklyn, we would see kids, there was a game they were playing where they were just pushing old people into buses. Right. Like they'd be waiting at the sidewalk and just be like, boom. It was just a game,
Where?
In the city. In Manhattan, there was like kids just pushing old people. It wasn't just old people. But
you had that whole wave of the knockout game.
Yeah.
Just try and kill somebody.
Yep.
Full force, just attempted murder, and the city lets them get away with it.
Yeah, there's no meaning. They have no meaning for life or care for it. It's truly sad.
Yeah, if you erode all the morals of the society and then you take away the actual laws, that's exactly what happens. That's why you have to have some sort of a moral code with the people in the society, but then you also have to have laws to back those up. You take away that, you get anarchy. You get what we have right now.
Yep. I one of the reasons why I didn't want to live in New York anymore, I was on the other side of the Manhattan Bridge. I lived down Broadway, a straight shot. I was hanging out at a company party, leave at like 1 a.m. Hail a cab. I think they make you use the app because like they don't want Uber, so you'll use like an app to call a green taxi or something. And I tell the guy I just live straight down Broadway, and here's the number, and he's like, "You got it." And I half sleep, and then all of a sudden I feel the car turning, and I'm like, "Hey, what are you doing?" Because you cross Manhattan Bridge, you go straight down Broadway. And he's like, oh, I'm sorry, I'm going. He starts weaving, going left and right. He's trying to run up the meter, thinking I was drunk or not paying attention, but I don't drink. And so I said, stop the car, I'm getting out. He said, no. He was slowing down, pulling up to a light. The bill, so far was like, the meter was like $4.95. I said, stop the car, I'm getting out. What are you doing? He says, no. And then as I feel the car start to move, I pop the door and jump out, and he slams the brakes on, comes out screaming, demanding I pay him. I called the police immediately. And I'm like, I walk into a gas station. He comes out screaming, threatening me. I call the police, says, hey, this cab driver was taking me for a ride. He's just screaming at me. By the time the cops show up, the meter's at $50. And the cops told me if I didn't pay him the $50, they'd arrest me.
Yep.
What ended up happening? The cops took my wallet, pulled all my cash out, and handed it to the cab driver, and then told me to F off.
They helped rob you.
That's right. Yeah. I got robbed by the cops.
Justice
in New York
is
City.
not tipped
2 lady
in our
cops.
favor.
Because the cabs are a part of the city's racket.
Yeah.
They pay the city. They don't care. So that guy was trying to rob me, and the cops showed up with guns and said, do it or else.
Insane. Yeah, I'm glad I'm not in the city anymore. We left when my wife was pregnant with our first, and it was just getting so depraved. And she was working in the city, and I was working in the city, or just outside of the city. So sometimes she'd have to take the subway without me, which was terrifying, right? And sometimes she'd take a taxi, but sometimes take the subway, and there was like guys like screaming about chopping your head off, you know, and then no one doing anything.
Yeah.
Like no one cared. They just tune out, like whatever. Like, yep, we're getting out of this place. It's totally insane. It was reminding me of the 70s in the city. That's what I would hear from my family who were cops or firefighters in New York. And it's not just, you know, it's not unique to New York, but that's how it was for sure in the 70s. You know, that was like the summer of Berkowitz, but like also fires all the time and complete destruction. So
that was the crazy part for me, the riots of 2020 when Portland like lit up. You had a lot of people that were on the periphery of that were like, well, you know, this isn't really a bad thing. They were defending it. And I'm like, no, guys, this is horrible. Like, they're like, yeah, but racism's also really bad. Like, no one's talking about race. If you believe this has anything to do with race, I don't know what to tell you. They're destroying the entire city, and they're not going to stop. And like, they literally haven't in Portland. But you do get this. I don't know if some of it's just people being complacent, them hoping that things are going to change, but not wanting to take action. But you also do get this fear, I think, of a lot of people that they don't want to be called. Like if you say that, hey, we're doing this for racial justice, if we're opening the borders for racial justice, like then all of a sudden, like if you push back on that, they're going to call you a racist.
Right.
And that's really powerful, I think, for a lot of people. It makes a lot of people live in fear.
I think all that CRT stuff is all like tendrils of Marxism, because they're doing Marxist stuff. It's
100%.
power, it's power plays
Absolutely.
to take your power, but they're going to make you afraid of talking out against it. And you just gave me another PTSD flashback of lockdowns when I don't know how it was by you, but in New York, they just like let loose everyone in the prisons for lockdowns. They're just like, it was like Arkham, you know, and they was like, I just go home. And then crime went crazy. You know, and there was obviously some recidivism, but I don't know how it was like.
We're still having major issues in Washington State with them opening up the prisons. A.G. Ferguson, who's now running to be our next governor, unfortunately, he's had a program where he's letting violent sex offenders out and then putting them into communities, into privately contracted houses where these people are not guarded whatsoever. They're saying they're doing it to, you know, reduce the population in the prison, but they're not choosing nonviolent offenders. Most of the people they're releasing are violent sex offenders. The only reason some of it's gotten stopped is because individual citizens in small towns have said, hey, why is a private company buying up a 5-bedroom house, you know, in rural Thurston County in Washington State? But that's the Democrats. I say they're the party of open borders and open prisons.
Yeah.
To anarcho-tyranny.
And I agree in prison reform, but not like that.
Right, exactly.
That's
Non-violent prisoners, sure, but you lock up the violent sex offenders. Common sense.
I wonder why it is.
What a segue.
I wonder why it is that they announced today this ruling to remove Trump from the ballot in Colorado. Could it be that CNN reports dozens of documents naming Jeffrey Epstein's victims and associates to be made public in 2024? I chose CNN because you know they try to lie about the sources we use here, but here's the story. About 177 names will be released. This includes associates, recruiters, staff members. This includes housekeepers, and it includes victims. They're saying, according to this judge, they have 2 weeks, 14 days, to release these names. Judge Loretta A. Preska, the latest filing in a case to settle a case by Virginia Roberts Giuffre. She claimed Epstein abused her and Maxwell defamed her. I believe it was settled, but journalists have filed saying that these people are publicly known, public figures, and therefore all the does, they call it, in the list should be named. There's still 2 weeks for people who are on the list to come forward or to go to the court and say, hey, don't release my name for this reason. Maybe one person ruins the whole thing for everybody else, but who knows?
This is the question I posed to X earlier, and I ask you guys and everyone listening. Like, do you even believe the list when it comes out?
I mean, it's not going to include the names you want it to include. They're going to have a housekeeper. It's going to Janet Smith, and you're going to be like, I don't know. Who's that?
I think it's a better question. Do you believe that the list is complete when it comes out?
Yeah, true. I think it depends on who's on it and why. Because they could have the normal people on there to make it seem more normal.
They want to throw someone under the bus. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure there are high-level people who are involved with Epstein who are like, just give the people something. You know? This is what happens with big corporations when they engage in serious malfeasance. Some low-level VP will get charged and they'll be like, we got him. And I think that was part of the Big Short. Mm-hmm. None of these people who are engaged in this fraud get criminally charged, but there's like one guy that they end up charging, saying he's the one. There, you got your sacrificial lamb. Have a nice day.
Yeah, this is like something where I think you'd need like multiple judges that could all have access to this. So they all release it at the same time. So it's not like just one judge, and like it could be easily contaminated. And there's just been so many lies told around this entire thing, this entire Epstein affair, that like, you're right. Why would you believe the list?
He's been given good treatment in jail decades ago. You know, like his roots are so deep. I have a hard time trusting anything.
And they somehow convicted how you say her name, Ghislaine Maxwell.
Yeah.
They convicted her of sex trafficking, but like they would not say who she sex trafficked to.
Right.
Yep.
All of it's so absurd.
This is our last week before we take off for Christmas. It's gonna be great. So what is it? Today's Tuesday. So what is Friday the 21st? No, Friday's 22nd.
22nd.
22nd. Yeah. Saturday's 23rd. It's gonna be an awesome Christmas, and I'm hoping that as I am sitting there relaxing, wearing a fuzzy sweater of some sort and drinking cocoa, that the Christmas present we end up getting, maybe not on Christmas, but soon, will be some accountability as it pertains to the Epstein list.
Yeah.
You know, my view is...
You will get coal, Tim Pool. You will get coal.
I have a feeling. But look, I'll tell you.
The Grinch is here.
If some of the names that come out, it's like a housekeeper, I'm fine. Like, I'll take a housekeeper. If you were cleaning up for this man and you knew what he was doing... I want to know who you are.
Right. Yeah, if you saw those...
And that's not all we want, but it's a start.
Those like restraining chairs he had in his bathrooms and stuff, and you're like living in that house cleaning it up. Yeah, for sure.
Like, who installed those?
For sure.
Yeah.
Like, for sure.
Look, if you get people that were on the premises, this is how investigations go. You get someone that was there that knows something, you interrogate them or you investigate them. What do they know? Who else do they know? Like, that's the way the investigations normally go. Whoever comes out and they actually name, there should be, now I don't know if it actually will happen, but there should be pressure or some DA or whatever that is trying to find more information about it, because clearly they have been slow rolling it, and they came out and said that the names on the list, you know, back when Epstein first died or whatever, they came out and said that the names on the list, it was too volatile to let them out.
Thank you, Serge. He did say died in quotes. And I
exactly.
agree. I'd like that to be the case, but I think of things like when someone is running for politics and all of a sudden she's on the WEF website, and then people are like, well, the WEF puts them on there to discredit them, or they're on the WEF website and that discredits them. You know, so it's like a constant back and forth of these psyops as well. But like, who's going to be on it, and maybe there's like who's going to benefit from that person being on it is what I'm worried about. But you don't know. Yeah. I just keep it in mind.
When it comes to the WEF stuff, I kind of just always get the impression that only in the past year, 2 years has it become broadly known throughout the I guess the dissident community that the WEF is actually really, really bad. Right. There was a time where, like, talking about Davos and talking about the people that get together at Davos and the WEF and the Council on Foreign Relations and stuff, is if you brought any of those things up in any type of critical context, then you were a crazy person. Yeah. You know, that was Alex Jones stuff.
Well, not just him. Bill Burr, before he was neutered, used to talk about those meetings all the time.
Yeah.
On Conan O'Brien's show.
Yeah, and so that
Look
and that's
what
the thing.
happened
It's
to
like
him.
if you're critical of it, you're a crazy person.
right.
But if you were listening to Zbigniew Brzezinski
Right.
talking to Mika and Joe about it on MSNBC at 8:30 in the morning, they're talking about what the WEF is doing or what the Council on
sure.
Foreign Relations, all these organizations, they're real and they actually do things and stuff. If you're talking about them and you are praising them, then obviously this is just normal NGOs and organizations and stuff. But if you're critical, well, then you're Alex Jones.
Yeah, for sure.
So I mean, obviously, it's just
the paradigm of like it's not happening and you're crazy, but if it is, it's a good thing that it's actually happening.
Exactly.
Oh, that's so true.
Frustrating as hell.
It's terrifying. Well, I hope the list comes out and we can have accountability would be great because accountability seems completely rare these days. It's just we're so hyper politicized. It's like it's hard for me to even see accountability on the horizon.
Accountability. I don't believe in accountability anymore. It's just the use of political persecution to stymie your opponents. You know, again, and generally that's conservatives, or people that are outside of the norm of progressive sensibilities. But I mean, again, we talked about it a little bit. You look at Santos, and granted, he clowned on all of Congress and he clowned on basically his entire district because they did elect him. So I mean, he did.
Was it Pozo that called him gay Joker this morning?
I don't know, but
incredible. Go look at Pozo's Twitter page.
Don't disrespect Santos.
No, I think he meant it in a good way because it was a hilarious interview.
Santos treated Congress the way that Congress deserves to be treated. That's absolutely, and that's why I'm such
a joke.
Surprised you're such a supporter. He treated them exactly how they deserve.
And the crazy thing is, the guy got no due process.
None.
I mean, he got no due process. And you're right, his district did elect him, and New York has their primaries, I think, like in the early spring, summer. So he was way less. He was like 8 months out from getting probably quite a few hard primary challenges. But then they came in and said, no, this guy's guilty. We got to throw him out right now. Like, why didn't they just let the process actually work? I don't know why Republicans have to rush in and automatically say, no, we'll take care of this. Like, we'll kick this bum out of here. Meanwhile, Menendez has got gold bars from the government of Egypt. And are the Democrats going to kick him off the Foreign Affairs Committee? Like, no way.
No way. Unbelievable.
2024 is going to be fun.
It's going to be wild.
I don't know what else to say. I mean, it's just, I've been saying before, I can't see. Normally when something happens, I have like several ideas of what I think it might lead to. And, I get it wrong a lot of times. Sometimes I get it right. I mean, with like Colorado kicking Trump off the ballot, I think it's like I'm in the ballpark. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When I had Media Matters roasting me. Well, I'd say roasting. They claimed that I likely had foreknowledge of January 6th because in September of 2020, I said, these Oath Keepers and Proud Boys and 3%ers, they're going to storm to D.C. in November and just like storm the White House or something. And then they were like, he must have known about January 6th. I was like, first of all, it happened in January, not November. Second of all, they didn't go to the White House. They went to the Capitol building. And more importantly, it's because I read the news. It wasn't a real prediction.
If I had any influence on the January 6ers, I would have told them to go to all the people the houses of the people that work at Media Matters. No, I don't. I take that back.
I think the problem
is knock on the door and have a polite conversation in any legal context. But my point is, it's starting to come in view with the removal of Trump in Colorado. It's I'm starting to get an idea of things that could happen from this. You end up with Trump unable. Not that he'll be removed from every state in the primary, but just enough that he can't win. Yeah. You end up with Ron DeSantis as the nominee. The establishment says, guys, look, we're not happy with this, but we can't let Joe Biden win. So everybody go out there and vote for DeSantis. Trump supporters are going to say, screw off.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I've heard you say a bunch like it's hard, and I agree. It's hard to envision this future, right? Because like if you read all the news, you have a sense of the pattern that happens. And I've been thinking, we might have a normalcy bias for all of these past years until COVID. Then it turned into absurdity, and now it's like you have to have an absurdity bias, but it's impossible to guess absurdity. So everything's just constantly
normalcy
chaos.
Is gone.
Yeah, it's the new normalcy is the absurdity. So, and it's almost ties into Elon's quote about the most likely outcome is the most entertaining one. Except it's for politics, it's the most like chaotic and depraved one. You know, and it's hard to gauge that because it's just we're so far gone.
And all the Democrats care about is power. I mean, they've proven that they will basically burn the entire country down. And so, what's the next level after that? What's the next level from 2020?
World War III.
It's pretty. I mean, it's incredibly frightening. Yeah, will they get us into World War III? I mean, Biden's last address to the nation, he said, "Well, we all have to unify because we potentially could be at war." I mean, and look at the geostrategic situation right now between the Middle East, between what's happening in Eastern Europe. Like,
and I worry
insanity.
about. We've gone through this age of character assassination. Trump, obviously is the biggest one at the top of that. And then when Phil talks about Frank Luntz recognizing this new thing, it's almost like they're all starting to realize that the character assassination economy is not working anymore. And then what goes back, it's not like they haven't dealt in blood before.
It stopped working before Trump because the reason you got Trump was because they called Mitt Romney a Nazi.
Yeah.
Right.
When you have the most Boy Scout ass dude in America.
He's a saltine.
Yeah, he is. He is absolutely a saltine.
Saltine in a suit.
He is the most boring, most Boy Scout ass guy that has probably run in the past 50 years. I mean, you could not get any more white bread and less offensive. And if you're calling him a Nazi, there's nowhere else to go. So what happened was the American people were just like, it doesn't matter who we elect. And that's why they were just like, who cares that he said grab him by the pussy?
Right.
Because no one is good enough for the Democrats. The politics of we respect each other was tossed out, a decade earlier, a decade before Trump ran.
For sure.
So the idea that respectability, has been something that the left has actually cared about. I don't know if they ever did. Saul Alinsky wrote the playbook on it in the 60s or whatever, and it could be that I didn't see it until recently or whatever, but it has been the politics of it has been power politics from the left for as long as I can remember, as long as, definitely all of my adult life,
I think we're in it right now is what Eisenhower warned about with the military industrial complex. But within that complex is the corporate press. They're an arm of that, right? And that's where all the psyops or the blatant lying is coming from.
The military industrial complex is no longer just Boeing, Raytheon, and companies like that, and space manufacturers. It's also Google. It's all your technology companies because all of that has become intelligence. It's all data collection, and it's also the media because of the propaganda. So the military industrial complex is no longer when you hear people complain about or criticize the military industrial complex, they're talking about Google. They're talking about Facebook. They're talking about Palantir. They're talking about all the tech companies in addition to Raytheon, in addition to
because those things can be like in your brain and in your day-to-day pattern.
Absolutely.
While they're making the things that are going to destroy you in that pattern.
Absolutely. The media produces the content, and the tech companies produce the vehicle that introduces the propaganda to the American people. And your average person, I see it all the time with a lot of people that I'm really good friends with that are not involved in politics, that are only tertiary. The only time that they talk about politics or whatever is when Donald Trump says something that the media drums up that tells them they should hate him for, or something.
On both sides.
Yeah, and now people are starting to be like, well, what's going on with Elon Musk? Why is Elon Musk a bad guy? And it's like these people have no idea that they're being entirely propaganda
controlled.
They have no reason to dislike Elon Musk. Only what they've been told to think by the media.
A Rolling Stone made a list of 9 unfunny things Elon did.
Yeah, I saw the UV Rape Case magazine decided that they have criticism for Elon Musk. Unreal,
unbelievable.
And one of the bigger reasons they've gone after Trump really since he took the White House was he is an affront to the military industrial complex because he came in and said, like, I don't think we need to be at war all the time, and then he made the cardinal sin of trying to get us out of wars, but then also saying, like, hey, wait a sec, why are we providing security guarantees for all of Europe? Like, why are we providing the security guarantees for
when they're
high
not paying?
seas? Exactly. Why aren't you guys paying? Yeah, but it's good business if they don't pay, because then we pay more, the military industrial complex gets further and further, more control, and they get more rich. But Trump was an affront to that, and that's what they're throwing the kitchen sink at him. I think people fail to realize that. It's like, actually, they're going after Trump for being radically moderate. They say he's a radical, but he's actually trying to get us out of all these entanglements.
So all he did was ask them to pay their fair share.
Right.
What's wrong with that? I mean,
They signed the
you hear it all
contract.
time. Yeah, pay your fair share. You know,
The 90s New York Democrat Donald Trump is a far right extremist.
Yep.
Right, exactly.
Well, it's because they moved so far left. Everyone's far right now.
Exactly.
Whoever hasn't seen the Eisenhower speech, please go watch it. It's the last speech he gave in the Oval Office before he gave the presidency over to JFK.
Kennedy, yeah.
And then, I mean, it is such a beautiful speech, and it's almost like poetry. And he predicted everything that we're in right now.
Yep.
And then I forget what the name of the speech is or interview that Kennedy gave 2 years later. But he pretty much in that interview sums up how horrible the press is. And then you marry those two things together, and here we are.
Yep.
I'm going to tweet the Eisenhower speech out
Sick.
right now.
Yeah, it's so good.
And then I think 2-3 years later was the Kennedy American University address where he talks about the end of Pax America and how we don't
forces.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
How we don't need to be projecting power everywhere. We can actually have a peace in our time.
Yep.
And then after that, the national security state did what they did. And
Well,
we've been at war ever since.
At some point in there, the Joint Chiefs of Staff came to him with an idea to start a war with Cuba,
Right.
called Northwoods.
Yeah.
And he turned that down. He fired that guy, General Lemnitzer, decorated war hero, and then he went and took over NATO. And then at that point is when NATO did some maybe dirty dealings with the years of lead in Italy, which was their political false flags on either side for 20 years.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's insane.
Yeah.
Welcome.
And then, in our lifetime, we've had the Iraq War lies, and then now with the same propaganda for Ukraine, the same propaganda for Middle East, all this stuff.
You know, I think my advice to everybody would just be we're so very close to Christmas, less than a week away, to make sure that when you see your family, you give them a hug and let them know that you love them, because 2024 is gonna get
be
crazy.
Wild.
Yeah. I mean, the world is still. I always say this too. Like, the world is so beautiful, and I'm so grateful for God. I'm grateful for the earth and how beautiful everything is. My children, and everything that we're talking about that's so evil and depraved.
Yeah.
It reminds me just how I cherish everything.
Yeah.
And it makes me cherish it more. Honestly.
And it makes you fight. I mean, there's a lot of folks right now who I know, and I live in a beautiful rural community where it's very possible to completely tune out all this BS and just say, I'm not going to even participate with this.
Right.
I've got my church, I got my job, I got my family. We're going to be fine. And in general, that's true because people are self-sufficient, they're independent. But man, this could get away from us so quickly and become so dark that people got to stay in the fight for 24.
It's
they
unfortunate,
vote,
but you have to, especially if you have kids, because you don't know who they're going to meet, and these ideas are just percolating down from every which way.
Yep.
And they're going to find your kids, and you got to raise them in the
100%.
right way. You know how to fight those ideas.
Yeah.
You need to know, because it's you got to have an immune system of your ideas, and that immune system has to encounter bad ideas, so you know how to defend those, right?
Exactly.
And if you don't have that immune system, those bad ideas will just collapse.
And someday you're going to have to explain to your kids what you did in the year of our Lord 2024.
For sure.
I mean, you're going to have to say hey, here's what I was doing. I was actually in the fight. I was doing the best I could for my community. You don't want to be the person who's well, in 2024 things seem just really nasty, so we kind of checked out. Is it's not really a very good example.
Nope.
We're going to go to Super Chats. So if you haven't already, would you kindly smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with your friends, and head over to timcast.com. Click Join Us to become a member and support our work directly. And you'll get access to the uncensored members-only show coming up in about a half an hour, where we will take questions from you, the audience. You can call and talk to us and our guests. So long as you send to become a member, get access to that Discord server. And also head over to thebestsongever.com. Click Download Your Price. And you can help us by purchasing the new song we released together. Again, a cover of the song by Jeremy Boring and Michael Knowles. And we're just building a parallel economy over here. So we got some music. Maybe you like it, maybe you don't. If you like it, you can buy it. And if enough people buy it, we'll hit the Billboard charts. We'll get Jeremy and Michael Knowles, Smokey Mike and the God King up on that Billboard charts. That'd be absolutely amazing. And then maybe one day we'll sell 500,000 of these songs, and we'll get Michael Knowles at Gold Record and Jeremy Boring Gold Record on their Daily Wire wall, and we'll have it behind us too. If that ever happens, I mean, Phil, he doesn't care. He's over not paying attention. He's got 7 of them. So,
I opened for Metallica.
Listen, there is nothing better than seeing your friend succeed.
Dude, yes. That picture of you posted the other day,
that was
amazing.
Which one was
that? It's him. Maybe it was the Metallica show.
No, it was from Rock USA a couple years back. It's
epic. It's him. It's him and just a sea of people in front of him.
It was one of the last shows before we played with Ollie before he passed away. I think, and it was the last tour that we did.
Wow.
And I didn't think we were going to be playing at all. There were thunderstorms all day long, and we flew in. Our flight, we thought we were going to be delayed and everything. And they shut down stage over and over, but they kept saying, no, we're going to get you on. No, we're going to get you on. And I'm like, this is not happening. And then like 20 minutes before we're supposed to play, they start rolling our stuff on stage. And I'm like, this is actually happening. And we play and it's ridiculous. We only played for maybe 30 minutes, but like there's literally thunder and lightning going on. I have some videos that are on my Instagram page of it from that night, but it was amazing. There's like 50,000 people or something like that. And we headlined the whole show. After we played, the show ended because of all the thunder and lightning and stuff. Go
listen to All That Remains after this episode, everybody.
Cheers.
Blast it.
All right, let's grab the super chats. We got Clint Torres says, howdy people. Tim, bravo for being a trooper and creating content for us today. Yeah, working off of 2 hours and 10 minutes of sleep all day.
It was a bit of a nap on the plane.
Yeah, but I think I only
wobbly.
got like 40 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's wobbly.
A little wobbly.
There's no you can't recline in these. It was a private jet. They're not. It's not luxury. I mean, it is in the sense that you get to fly when you want to fly, and it's a private jet. I get it. But there's no reclining. You're sitting upright on a bumpy, shaky ride the whole time, and the convenience is you can fly at your convenience.
Yeah. And cheese platters.
Well, that was just something we brought on the plane. You know what I mean?
Because you could bring your own cheese platter.
Exactly. It's like you fly first class. You can recline, plug your laptop in, put your, stretch your feet out, go to sleep. And if you get real first class on those bigger flights, they got beds.
But no TSA though, right? With the private jet,
exactly.
You just go right. Okay, that's a pretty big deal. Yeah.
The main benefit of flying private is once we finish the show, the plane's waiting for us.
Oh man,
we're not waiting for the plane.
Yeah.
And then we get home at 5:21 in the morning. But I wouldn't want to go through TSA and stuff like that. However, a full lay down bed, I could have got some sleep.
True.
But it is what it is. You don't look a gift horse in the mouth. It was made possible thanks to our friends at TPUSA. That was really amazing. We're grateful to have been a part of it.
And the whole thing went off without a hitch. Like from watching it from the stream and stuff, it looked great.
Yeah,
it was
cool.
awesome.
Yeah, shout out to Serge and Kellen and Carter.
Quality was amazing.
Solid
very
boys.
Good. All right, I'm not your buddy guy says, before we watch the stream, folks, switch your drinks to water if you haven't already, because you're going to get alcohol poisoning tonight with the famous line. What did I say? Like 23 times? Someone's keeping track.
It was like 15 before we got into the segments.
Yeah. Let's grab some super chats. Where are we at? Make It Simple says, major win for Colorado. No more Trump 2024. Well, there you go, buddy. Good for you. David Violet says...
That was Nikki Haley, sorry.
David Violet says, they want a reckless reaction from the non-left. Don't feed the trolls. Instead, change the culture and meme them to defeat. I agree. They want you to overreact. Do not give it to them.
Yeah. Don't take the bait.
It's quite simple, actually. Donald Trump is right now asking for you at his rally in Iowa. He said, just show up and vote. Overwhelm it. Vote.
100%.
It's anybody. This is the funny thing. Anybody who's saying like, look, if you believe Trump is our best chance right now, and you like what Trump has to say and what he's doing. I see these people being like, no, Trump is wrong. We have to go and do insert X, Y, and Z activism or whatever. And I'm like, it's probably Fed or a leftist.
Dude, I totally agree.
Yeah, it's like,
totally agree.
Dude, we want to make money. We want to take care of ourselves, our families. We want to be responsible. We want to stay in shape.
Yep.
And we want to pay attention to what's going on. We want to be active politically. And right now, it's really simple. We've got not just Donald Trump, but we've got, Joe, you're running.
Yep.
We've got people running at the federal level, the state level, the local level, Kerry, of course.
Yep.
And that's the mission right now.
Yeah.
They're trying to, what they're doing? I was hanging out with Tucker after the show, and I said, I was on your show before. And he's like, of course, right. And I was like, yeah, in Boston with the Antifa thing years ago. This Antifa guy was throwing punches at me, but stopping right before my face. Because what he wanted was for me to throw the hit.
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't do it. I just stood there. And I was like, are you doing something?
Right.
And so Tucker is like, oh, come on my show. And I'm like, that's what they're doing now.
That's exactly right.
So we'll just mind our own business.
Yeah. Yes. Everyone, please remember the Governor Whitmer kidnapping plot. Like, that's what they want.
Yeah.
And that was mostly feds. Like,
right. It's some look, they'll find some fumbling, bumbling dude who doesn't know what's going on, and they'll be like, "Can you hold this gun real quick?" And you'll be like, "Sure thing, buddy." And they'll be like, "Help! He's got a gun!" And you're like, "Wait, what?"
Can you put on this red hat real quick for us?
And then they'll make him the example for everybody.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
exactly.
Everybody.
Well, there was that story recently where the guy was in the mall or whatever, and then he took his own life and said, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. And they found a bunch of weapons and stuff.
Yes.
Wasn't that in Colorado? Wasn't that the amusement park?
Is that what it was?
I think it was an amusement park.
Yeah.
He was going to kill a bunch of people.
And that was after the
Well,
main
he
one.
wrote something like, "I just wanted to come inside. I don't want to do this," and then he kills himself. And like people all were like, "MK Ultra, like what the was that?"
Yep, that's part of that military industrial complex.
All right, Jimmy Grenier says, "Tim, the decision of the court was stayed. They only granted a pending decision to create a headline and provoke his supporters, so they have a basis to definitively remove him from the ballot. It was stayed, and that is the trick. So that I think it's the other way around, so that people on the left can be like, oh, it was stayed, calm down. Perhaps the headline. The staying of it was completely irrelevant. It has nothing to do with the ruling. We're talking the stay of the ruling expires on the 4th of January.
Yeah.
That's when they will finalize their ballots. I don't know that the federal Supreme Court can overrule a private organization operating under state law. We'll see. Waffle Sensei says, I am once again asking that we start today's episode by just saying Civil War. You missed it. I didn't get it. It's not how it went down, unfortunately. Noah Sanders says, we need good people to step up and primary these awful people. Timcast members, rise up and run against your local failed or failing politicians.
Do it.
Not just Timcast members, everyone.
Everybody.
You know? Yeah. And that's the big thing, because when we're on the stage with Tucker, Luke says, everyone go around and say who you think VP should be. And he's laughing because we know what he's doing, because everyone's going to say Tucker.
Yeah.
Tucker should be the vice presidential pick. And it wasn't until the idea was floated that everyone was like, yes, okay. Because before that, it's like, I guess Vivek, well, Tucker might be the VP. Trump mentioned it. He was asked and he said that'd be a good idea. And we're all instantly like, yes.
Yeah.
I don't think Tucker wants to do it, though.
I can't imagine after just starting the company and all that stuff. You know,
Right.
I thought it was going to be Kerry till she announced to run for Senate. Yeah, Vivek sounds like it could be, but I don't think it's going to be him either, honestly.
Yeah. Tucker's probably more valuable on the outside. Like,
Trump's going to choose
doing what he's
himself
doing
for
right now.
VP. Yeah, it's going to be a double Trump ticket.
Yeah. I mean, to that point from that super chat, they're right, though. People do need to step up. And, like,
Yeah.
if you're not happy if you're represented primary, my primary, a 12-year incumbent and beat her last
right.
cycle.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard, but, you know, I didn't have any experience in politics. I just went around and started talking to people, and you can do it at the grassroots level. It's not easy, but it's doable.
Yep.
All right. Where are we at? Aaron S. says, let's take all Democrats off ballots in conservative and swing states. I'm ready. Yes, but understand. Right now, they're doing the primary. They want to make sure Trump can't win the primary. Then Ron DeSantis will win. That's why they won't stop. Ron will win as a dishonorable man of no integrity. And then they'll say, oh, but this is, oh, geez, I mean, he's the nominee. What are we supposed to do? We're just playing by the rules. So if you remove Joe Biden and other Democrats, yes, I agree. But understand, Biden, there's no primary for Biden.
The Democrats are too smart for that. Like, they won't do a primary. They've all already rallied around Biden. They forced out RFK. There's some other guy, but they're not giving him any airtime. So, yeah, the Democrats are very organized.
The B says, does the establishment just think that all these Trump voters will go back to voting for people like Ron DeSanctimonious or Nikki Haley? As a smart man once said, where's the off-ramp? He did indeed say it, but I don't think you understand. January 6th is the trial balloon for what they plan to do for people like you. You want to be an undesirable maggot? Or what else do they call him? What deplorables?
Deplorables,
maggots. Yeah.
Insurrectionists.
Insurrectionists.
Election deniers.
Sure.
I mean, I feel like they've got your history, so they know what videos you're watching. So if you're commenting on Tim Pool streams and stuff, you're already
They got you, buddy. Yeah.
And think about it this way. 15 to 16 million illegal immigrants brought in illegally by Joe Biden. How do you deport these people? Let's say Donald Trump says, we're not playing games. All these people have to go home. This was illegal in the first place. Far leftists stage a bunch of violent assaults on detention centers. Whose side do you think the illegal immigrants are going to fight on?
Yeah, of course.
That's a 15, 16 million group of people, many of them young males.
Yeah.
And they're going to be like, hey, look, this side claiming to be the legitimate government is saying we are okay to be here.
Yeah.
It's
how
gonna
many
be busted.
bad actors are part of that 15 million? How many
Oh, yeah.
sleeper cells from, Iran, Hezbollah, Hamas, like whatever, you name it, ISIS, like
'cause they're
Even the
not
Chinese
CCP,
Communist Party. Yeah, right.
Chinese Communist Party, yeah.
Yeah, they're not.
100%.
It's not just South Americans coming over. It's people from all over the world.
Oh, yeah.
A
going
lot.
to
In
South
Rice and
America.
Yuma, they were saying it's not Mexicans. Like, it's like it's like Africans,
Yeah.
people from China. You
There's
know,
a
like,
ton of folks in the Middle East when I was there. Yeah, they had a stack of Middle Eastern passports.
right. Yep.
Let's grab some more super chats. Skulky Bone says, these days, Colorado is basically just California's largest county. Yep. Shredkowski. What argument is there for voting Trump over Vivek if Vivek has better policy and is 100% not going to have Haley as VP? What do you mean? Because we want Trump to win. I don't know. What is the argument? That Trump will finish out his presidential term. He'll complete his arc. He will take actions that you can't take as a first-term president. That's probably, it's simple. Vivek getting in will want to do a lot of things. And, you know, in your first term, it's 70%. Second term is 100%. Trump's asking for a final 100% term. He should get it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Prior record, 4 years of peace and prosperity. I mean,
I like Vivek.
even all the criticisms of him, we had 4 great years. But then also, I mean, Trump's very unique. I think the fact that he's the age that he is, he's independently wealthy. They've already thrown the kitchen sink at him. He's got nothing else to lose. He's basically on one more mission. I mean, I think he's the perfect guy for the times we're living in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I'd vote for Vivek.
Yeah.
He's fantastic. If for some reason Trump is out, it ain't going to be. I'm not voting for DeSantis or Haley.
Yeah, and they're 2028 too.
DeSantis, I feel like, has got to be. I don't know. You know, I thought he was a really great governor. We like his policies and the things he's enacted. But then you look at his campaign, and I really start to wonder if the dude is just like a mannequin. Like they tell him what to say and when to say it, and that's it.
Yeah.
As governor of Florida, he's just there saying like, I don't know, tell me what to do. I have no idea. Because I don't know how you could be so incompetent when it comes to running a presidential campaign, but competent as a governor.
He seemed to handle the media better though, as a governor. Like there were sometimes there he would school the media. That person's gone.
He was in his element as a governor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Patrick of Ohio says, when is Michael going to pay up to Roseanne? We need some follow-up. It's not looking good for Mr. Malice. He's going to be here this week.
You still got to wait until the end of the at least
Of
until
course.
November.
You can't call the fight before the fight happens. Come on, you know. But again, this is the odds are for Roseanne here for a little bit. Maybe it's like leaning. It's like plus 100 for Malice in the odds. You know, well, Roseanne's the favorite going into 2024, but we'll see. We'll see.
What was the bet?
Roseanne said there won't be an election.
Okay.
And the question is, what does that really mean? Does it mean nobody votes and everyone's like, oh, geez? Or does it mean no one believes the election is legitimate in any way? And I think Roseanne's probably right if you use a very broad definition of no election. Mm-hmm. If in the sense that Trump's name's being removed from the ballot, you can argue there was a procedural election, but you remove the front runner from the ballot. There was not an election.
Right.
So we'll see. What do we have? Triple Flip says, Phil, help me propose to my girlfriend. When is your tour? Bring her on stage, bro. She's super hot. So am I. So are you. Let's go viral.
So I'm not sure why your girlfriend being super hot would matter to me. Just saying.
He's got a proposition for you, buddy.
Maybe we'll see. It depends on where you live. So, but we'll be on tour probably like in May. So.
Jesse Faircloth says, it seems like the Democrats are getting closer to their Confederate roots when instead of further, and I'm seriously worried about the country that I love. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That is correct. What do we have here? Ryan Pujol says, and this is how our Democratic Republic dies, with thunderous applause. I think Roseanne might have won her bet. It's time to start saying no to Democrats from here on out. It's crazy. What this is just absolutely an insane day.
So
it's a crazy week. I'm really worried about I'm worried that I'm going to go on Christmas vacation and then something real crazy is going to happen.
Right.
And I'm going to be like, sitting on a slope somewhere or something like, oh, did you look at that?
Yeah.
So ALX tweeted this, and this is, I guess, Jesse Waters was saying, but the Colorado lawsuit was filed by a Soros-funded outlet, decided by an all-Democrat appointed Supreme Court, and the Democrat Colorado Secretary of State, within a split second, was celebrated on MSNBC. The idea that this is not a total op by, political op is ridiculous. And the idea that this actually stands, I can't wrap my head around that. Mm-hmm.
That's why I say civil war as often as I do. Because the only reason we're not in one right now is because Republicans are following Trump's lead. and Trump is not an insurrectionist, and Trump is not a dictator.
Right.
Because if Trump did come out and say, this is it, the line's been breached, it's time, then this country would instantly go insane. But I think Trump is confident that we can win. Yeah. He can win. And I think culturally we are winning. Yeah. The cultural thing's the most important thing because they do stuff like this. It's an overt attack from powerful special interests on our elections and everything like that. Yeah. But look at last night when we do this show with Tucker Carlson. We've got the biggest numbers on YouTube. We've got the new song we put out. Daily Wire's got their movies coming out. Culturally, we are winning. You've got Bud Light failing. You've got Target failing. Now like we're claiming cultural victories. Trump's polls are through the roof. Biden is at his worst approval rating ever. They do this because they want that reaction. We don't got to give it to them.
That's why it's so smart what Trump was saying during that speech when he was saying, I just need you to vote, because that's the one thing they fear. That's why they're doing all this, because they fear us just coming out in a massive wave and actually mobilizing people and voting.
Yep. I completely agree. Doesn't mean there's not going to be applied resistance.
Certainly.
There's going to be some crazy lawsuits and tomfoolery when it comes to 2024's election. Pay attention. Mm-hmm. But that's why Trump was saying overwhelm it. Unquestionable numbers.
Yep, absolutely.
I agree.
100%.
Now they're like, quick, take his name off the ballot.
Exactly.
When they do that, when they go for a win by disqualification, imagine, we just watched the Covington Edwards match. Imagine if one of the fighters tried getting their opponent disqualified on a technicality instead of fighting them. We'd be like, they think they're going to lose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Technicality, he can't fight. I win. I get the belt. Nah.
I mean, I imagine the bureaucracy and the powers that be in the quote unquote deep state, they understand what it means if Trump does get back into the position of the president, get the office of the president, that he's going to have a far deeper understanding of the processes necessary to do what he said he was going to do before.
Yeah.
So, there's dudes that are like, my 401k is on the line.
Their job,
here. Yeah. If Trump gets elected, my kid's not going to blah, blah, blah school and I can't have that, extra house or whatever garbage thing they're thinking,
Yep.
Panzer says, bloody Colorado. Oh, boy. That's right. I'm Not Your Buddy guy also says, this is bleeding Colorado, the rhyming of Kansas. Perhaps. It would be so soon, though. I mean, it is fair. If you look at the history, there was concern in the 1820s about civil war, and it took 40 years for something to finally happen.
Yeah.
Right.
It could be 40 years. Who knows? I think it's a strong possibility Trump wins, and then it takes several decades before anything actually shatters. Trump wins. He starts enacting reforms and clean corruption, and it works for a while, and then maybe that's it. It doesn't have to repeat itself if we learn from the past.
So. Yeah.
All right. Missykin says, Tim, do you think they will steal the election and use migrant militias to fight the Civil War? Well, who is they, though? Are we talking about like Democratic political establishments or like the woke faction, whatever it may be? Steal the election. What do you mean by steal? If they are going, what really bothers me about the steal the election narrative is the idea that elections were ever fair. It's like you thought this one was not fair. Do you think any of the other ones were? Mm-hmm. None of them are. They're miniature civil wars where people are just agreeing not to punch each other in the face as they try to find a way to legitimize their grasping of power from the taking the reins. Yep. And most people just say, okay, you have the power this time. But now everyone's saying no, basically. Michael Malice has a good thread. He's talking about this on Twitter, on X, where people are saying now that the courts are politicized, this country is doomed or whatever. And he's like, courts are always politicized. Always. And he's right. So now what's happening is there are just two politicized courts. That's it. You have the traditional American view and you have the progressive neo-communist view. And they're going to be at odds with each other. Lithian Cross says, how bad would it be if the Epstein list is faked to have anti-establishment individuals on it, names like Elon or Trump himself? I would be willing to bet that Trump will be named in the documents. I would not be surprised at all.
Right.
But that doesn't mean anything. The names that we're getting are not all clients or workers or anything like this. A lot of them will be clients. A lot of them will be recruiters. A lot of them are just housekeepers or janitors. Some of them are actually victims. So yeah, maybe Trump himself will be named in the document because the document will say, at a party held by Donald Trump, and right now it's listed as a Doe. Mm-hmm. So yeah, of course.
RFK Jr. could be on it. He's admitted to being on the plane and flying around.
Yeah, that one's an interesting one, huh? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wonder about what's going on with RFK Jr.
Yeah.
That's a weird.
It's almost like he got
story.
tipped off he was going to be on the list, but
right?
Who knows?
Yeah.
He was with him with his kids, looking for bones or something.
Mark Campbell says, plot twist. The lazy left sees Trump disqualified. They don't vote. Trump wins electoral and popular vote. They reel in horror, sparking civil war. It's a fair point, actually. Because Trump being removed, we have these Democrats all cheering. They may now believe Trump can't win, and many of them may just stop caring. Oh, what do you mean? I thought Trump got disqualified. Yeah. Well, that was one state. It was? Oh, I wasn't paying attention.
That was a mistake they made in 16. I mean, the media said that Hillary was going to win a landslide. And yeah.
I never forget laughing so hard. I was drinking margaritas, watching the needles all in favor for Hillary. Just all of a sudden go like this, and I was laughing maniacally.
Yeah,
it was amazing.
It was awesome.
Mr. Invisible says, Tim, I'm in Colorado. Our last local election had 0 write-in option and no other choices than Democrat physically on the ballot. We need serious help. Yikes.
Wow.
You got to run.
Yep.
Someone's got to pick up that mantle, Let's see. Chafed says, this isn't that difficult. Remove Biden from the ballots in red states. As for these partisan hack judges, start filing made-up charges against their kids and family members, issue arrest warrants, and hold them without bail. I think you misunderstand. See, this is I'm sorry, I got to throw a little criticism your way. This is what Republicans don't understand. You don't need to make up charges. Show me the man and I'll show you the crime.
Right.
If they want to play this game with Trump and issue summary judgments without evidence, yeah, you don't make up charges. You actually just then go and enforce the law against these Democrats, which is not being done. Buster Ruckus says, Tim, your argument doesn't make sense. If they used a constitutional clause to ban him, then they made it a federal matter, so SCOTUS now has authority. Incorrect. That is not true. How a state Supreme Court interprets how they decide to run their elections does not give the federal government the authority. And like I said, there will be citation of the 9th and 10th Amendments. Basically, if it's not prohibited, the states can do it. So the federal government, the argument would have to be, SCOTUS has the authority to overrule a private organization's electoral voting processes. I'm not convinced they can. Now, the Supreme Court could argue that the political parties act as de facto public institutions despite being private organizations. Therefore, they will issue that ruling. Nothing you knew about it. Okay, totally fair. But I think there's a strong possibility a right-leaning court says, we can't tell a private organization who to put in charge, how to run an election. Yeah. If it was the general election being run by the state, we could issue an argument. However, the Constitution also says state legislatures have final say in how their elections are run. The Supreme Court might even come back and be like, states are to be run as their state determines. That's why we rejected Texas v. Pennsylvania. Yeah. Texas sued Pennsylvania. Supreme Court said, screw off. We don't care. Trump might file an appeal and they might say, we have no interest in adjudicating a private organization's rule process. We're not gonna have a Supreme Court hearing on how Starbucks chooses the president of the company. Why would we have a ruling on how Colorado's Republican Party, a private organization, does? We'll see. We will see, man. I think it might just be crazy, and you might only get Trump and Biden are off of every ballot. Who knows? Yeah.
Ghost candidates.
There's no election because they just removed everybody that was possibly running. Whoa.
Yeah. Anthony Bird says, Mr. Kent proudly voted and donated to you in the last election. Oh, can't wait to vote for you next year. Awesome. We lost, Klickitat County before the last election. How will you win over Vancouver? You have the aerial vote.
Yeah, so we did really well in the rural counties. We just kind of lost in our urban hub, Vancouver, which is kind of right across the river from Portland. We right now are working on unifying the Republican Party because we had that hard-fought primary. And so I had a lot of Republicans who voted up and down ballot Republican, but they didn't vote for me because of we have a late primary too. It's in August. So they mailed the ballots out about 5 weeks later. I spent all my money trying to get through the primary, $14 million spent against me. And so I had zero money going into the general election. The Democrats wisely consolidated around one candidate and then hit me on day one of $6 million. Wow. My Democrat opponent basically ran as a moderate as well. So we're exposing her voting record, which is the same record as Pelosi and AOC. And so already had a lot of good unity this time. But I appreciate the support.
Mr. Denetic says AZ would never stay loyal to the feds. Yeah. Perhaps. Raymond G. Stanley Jr. says, dang, Tim really thought about that Civil War map. I mean, for a couple minutes, we were talking about it before the show. But yeah, like the red states would be cut through the middle by, you wouldn't just see a north and a south. That map actually makes sense when you look at like the Spanish Civil War or the Syrian Civil War. Various factions pop up in various areas, and then they are aligned or aren't aligned. Who knows, man? It'll be crazy. Jennifer Sumi says Colorado plus 14 states plus DC give national popular vote their electoral votes. 196 out of 260 electoral votes. Why doesn't anybody talk about this? Imagine if we could rally disaffected voters across the country and make their vote count. We do talk about the National Electoral Vote Coalition or whatever it's called. And this is their plan, to make it so that you can never have an election and that they will always just give the vote to the Democrat. Great. Not interested in that. Although it could backfire, because the National Vote Coalition's argument is whoever wins the national popular vote will get their state's electoral votes, which means California could go Republican. It's real simple. California's not going Republican. It's 2-1 Democrat. But if they join this coalition and the Republican does win by a thin margin in the popular vote, all of those electoral votes from California go to the Republican instead. Now, why would you do that?
Yeah.
I don't know. I suppose they'd like to. Let them do it. All right, we'll grab one more down here. Still Piss says, best skate shoe of all time. SXL, Vans Era, or Adidas Busenitz? I don't agree with either of those. I would say one of my favorite shoes was the America Bevel, but you had to shoe goo the toe cap before skating it, because those old school caps, they were the stupidest construction. Now I've been skating Kyle Walker's. Yeah, I just have like 20 pairs of these because they're just so good. Really, really good. Yeah, the Kyle Walker Vans. So there you go. Thanks for the question. All right, everybody, if you haven't already, would you kindly smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with your friends, but more importantly, go to timcast.com, click join us, become a member, because we're going to have an uncensored members only show on the front page of the website up in a couple minutes, where you as a member can call in and talk to us and our guest, and we're gonna be taking your calls. Also, go to thebestsongever.com, click download your price. That's what it says, a little button. You click it. For 69 cents, you will download our new song, buy it, check it out. It's fun, it's modern synth pop style, a cover of Jeremy Boring and Michael Knowles, and we've already sold probably around 10,000, I think, which is really, really great considering we're only on day 3. We didn't have a big promotion yesterday. We try to push as hard as we can, but we hit number 1 on iTunes instantly. And so I think we're doing fairly well, but we'd like to do really well. So with your support, we need each and everybody who supports the work of Michael Knowles and Jeremy Boring, as well as Timcast, to spend the 69 cents. But I'll tell you what, you'll also get 35% off all Cast Brew coffee. That means if you're buying for 69 cents, you can order $100 of coffee and get $35 off. And it's Christmas. So maybe you want to buy some fresh roasted coffee for Christmas, send it to your families or whatever, get that discount code. We'll see you over at timcast.com. You can follow me personally at Timcast. You can follow the show at Timcast IRL. Joe, do you want to shout anything out?
Yeah, absolutely. If you want to support my campaign, it's a grassroots campaign. I don't take any corporate PAC money, so please go to joekentforcongress.com to do that. And thanks for having me, Tim.
Right on.
I am Phil That Remains on X. I'm Phil That Remains Official on Instagram. The band is All That Remains. You can follow us on Spotify, on Apple Music, on Pandora, on Amazon Music, on YouTube, the internet.
It was good to be here. I'd recommend going and watching the Joe Kent interview that I did with Hannah Claire Brimlow. I believe it was a Culture War episode.
Yeah.
And you got really deep into like what you're going through with your campaigns and your area. So go check that out. I'm at Shane Cashman on Instagram and Twitter, and I'm a writer for Scanner.com, SCNR.com.
And I'm Serge.com. Very fun to be in Phoenix. Hope you guys enjoyed the show. And let's get to the after show.
We'll see you all over at timcast.com in about 1 minute. Thanks for hanging out.